Welcome to the Don James High School Football Report. I hope everybody's having a good night out there. Tonight's show is fully loaded. Like I was saying, we go into the inside of a guy that's really close to the campus of Oklahoma. The student is Joey Helmer of 247 Sports and the OU Insider. We're going to have him on the show tonight. We're going to have James Cobern on from Fansided. He's going to do 2009 recruiting class with me. We'll talk a little bit about college football and talk to him about Oklahoma football as well. And we're also going to have on the show tonight Ryan Swartz of UIPD Sports. And we're going to have him talk about the high school top 25. Top 25 teams. Some pretty big shakeup, especially towards the bottom. A lot of teams switching spots. The top four are still there. We'll go into that, and we're going to go into maybe Ryan's top four is different, so we're going to talk about that. I mean, his top four might be different from mine. Last week I know we had one different team. Colquitt County is in his top four now. That'd be really good. So we're going to talk about that. But like I said, we got a full show ahead. First thing I'm going to get into tonight is the top 25 from the high school football rankings. I mean, this is going to be pretty much show and tell week. I mean, number one team is Bishop Gorman, and they play Reed from Sparks, Nevada. So St. John Bosco's number 2, Allen from Texas is 3, and Colquitt County is number 4. We're going to talk about the Pac-5 when Ryan gets there, but I do want to go over the Bishop of St. John Bosco game. I do think that's going to be a really good game. I believe that Bishop Vermont is a little better than I thought. I know they had the skilled players on the outside, but I didn't know that they had those players inside. And their line did a really good job, especially their defense. They did a really good job last week. I mean, they played the best of the best in the state of California, pretty much. I mean, the team they just beat last week, Coach Christian, that's a great football team. That was a team that was their first loss. So deep into the playoffs, and Bishop Vermont set 2 months in. And it's just everything pretty much. I mean, from the top to the bottom, I mean, they play a lot of guys, too. I know a lot of high school players play 2 ways. They have players like that, too, or they can go with the big boys up front and, switch them in and out, introduce skill position players, teams going 4 and 5 wide. But they do it kind of different, So that's going to be a good team to watch. Number 5 team is Cardnial. They play Mater Dei, which we'll get into as well. Katy is number 6. Ocean Lakes is number 7. They play Oscar C. Smith, Josh Schleck's team. It's going to be a fun one. I think Ocean Lakes is too good. They run the ball really well, for one. They don't make too many penalties, and they're hungry. They kind of got dissed, I guess, by the state with as far as people threatened them to take their games away. They didn't take those games away. They disciplined the coach on it. So, I mean, they're playing with a chip on the shoulder. They thought they might not be able to win times, like Long Beach Poly. They just and they got for it. So, it's going to be fun. I can't wait to see who gets it done. But we're going to talk about that one a little later. Andre Academy is actually on a bye week. Dennis Lau is number 9. Male, big win over Trinity. They're number 10. They're going to the state house next week. So, I think they'll win. I mean, just Male is consistently the best team in the state of Kentucky for a while. I think they'll continue that trend. Clay Chalkville, another team that's just been dominating for the past few years. Since 11, and they are just running past everybody. Just their defense is too good up front. Similar to Alabama, the team that they watch play every week, just dominant up front. Can smack anybody in the mouth, and they have the outside speed, especially at running back. Again, like I said, like the University of Alabama. So similar teams, their best team in high school, best team in state. A lot of teams play for Clay Chalkville and going to Alabama. So. Fits perfectly. The number 12 team is Webb City out of Missouri. They're playing for their state title. They're trying to go 15-0. They're really close to it. So I think they'll get it. St. Edward's, Richard Viejo at 13, and St. Edward's 14. St. Edward's got lucky. They kind of slid through these playoffs without, having to play some of the top teams in the state, like LaSalle and Mulder, other teams like that. They got away from that. So definitely stoked for the state championship. That'll probably be the biggest blowout on this list. I'll just say maybe the other side, they'll probably have more. But other than that, and this one's just there's no way that they're going down the seat. They're just too talented. Sometimes teams can just have too much talent. Talent does win. Sometimes if it's too much, 100 times out of 100, you're going to win. So I'm going to go with a huge blowout with St. Edward. I think they're going to somewhere 56-7, 14 maybe they'll score. Grayson is 15 out of Georgia. Westlake. Pretty interesting matchup. I think that will be kind of close. St. Thomas Aquinas. Huge win. They finally look like a complete team the past 2 weeks. Even Nicholas Wilson was starting to get some pressure in front, so can't wait to see that. Or at least keep up the score on that. Lake Travis plays Midway. Trent Christian Academy takes a huge jump. They play Tampa Catholic. Another game that's going to be close. Honestly, I almost would say Tampa Catholic is the favorite. Tampa Catholic, really good receivers, young guys. They're a team that's like maybe if they win this game, they possibly can win state title. If they get past this team, they can really win state title. They really can. So if they get past them, that's a team that I was thinking maybe in 2 years could be a national championship contender. That's how young they are. They have a lot of sophomores and juniors starting. A lot of guys that did in 2018 camps that are tearing it up. They're going to tear it up in 2017. So I think Tampa Catholic might be Trinity Christian Academy. But we'll see. I do like what they play on defense. The academy brings on defense. They've been running the state, especially with North Florida. They're playing a team in Central Florida now, but it's going to be a fun match to watch if you're in that area. Tampa area. The Mater Catholic has won their state title. They finished 11-1. They only play 8 regular season games. Short playoff. They play teams in D.C. and in the state area. But until they won the state title, they're probably going to end somewhere around 20 and 25. They'll drop because they just played in their games. So, I think the Master Catholic did a really good job. They're really a few points away from being the top 15 team. Things can just go awry. That's a consistent program. You've got to keep it consistent. They'll have that difficulty sometimes. Folsom, who has been under here for 2 years now, quietly underrated. They hop in the top 20. Big jump for them. They play St. Mary's. Can't wait to see them take it. I think they might take their division again. State of California. Definitely the best team in California outside of the NFL. Out at Folsom. Good team. They know what they are. Arid. So it's hard to beat them when they're lining up 5 legit receivers. And, they can even run the ball pretty well. So Folsom's the team to watch out. Cedar Park, they keep winning. Cole Rain is 22. Marysville is 23. They play Oakland, which is going to be a really good game. Westlake, Texas, Northwest East. It's going to be a fun game. Westlake's a good team. You got really, this came back to life in the early 2000s, late 90s, even mid-2005. They were probably one of the top 5, top 10 teams every single year in the state of Texas. It kind of fell off, kind of like Texas is right now. Where they're still relevant, but they weren't as good. And the new coaches have done a really good job. They really have, Todd Dodge is the former North Texas coach and South Lake Carroll coach. So he, at one point, was the best coach in the state of Texas. The highest paid in the state of Texas. He did a really good job. He left North Texas, struggled, but he's now come back from that field experience to a good school. Westlake had the tradition. It was like a perfect time, perfect circle. They struggled, he struggled. And now that they're together, I really do think, they're young. They lost the game already. They're not going to be a national team, but next year they might be preseason top 10. And, if you start off in the top 10, you got a really damn good chance of winning a national title, especially from this picture from the state of Texas. So, Westlake's a good story to tell and a good team to talk about. moving on. Trinity, who is eliminated, but I still have them at number 25. I mean, Trinity, gosh, if De La Salle wins a state title, I mean, they're going to have to probably stay in my top 10. Because, I mean, De La Salle wins a state title, they're going to have to probably beat, maybe an undefeated Bosco. I mean, if they beat Bosco convincingly too, I mean, I'm not leaving them out of my top 4, even though they have that loss to Trinity. Therefore, I can't do Trinity that far down. They also have to point. Real estate, they dropped a lot of their top 25. And I'm not sure about that, but I'm sure about best top 25 team. There's no way you can do a team into the top 25. A lot of excuses people made for that team up in Concord a little bit. I think with the weather, I think the delay. I don't buy it. I just think that the better team won that day. And Trinity is a really good team, so they were out. Both of those teams. I still think Trinity, maybe it's their year next year, because they were really close to being a national championship contender, or at least in the top 4. Definitely in the Southwest. So that was really good to look out for. But hey, next year we'll see what happens. Rounding out that top 25 is the team out Wayne, Ohio. Bishop Vermont, they moved up. They moved up a lot this week. Steele moved up as well. Gilman, Maryland moved up. Brentwood Academy. That's a really good team out of Tennessee. I think they might be the best team outside of Maryville in the top team in Tennessee. Spain Park, Lake Stevens. Jacob Easby playing so good this year. Playing perfect football. Bishop Moore, they have a huge game this week. Huku, Hawaii, have won their state title, which was packed, man. More packed in those games that we watched the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. The high school kids had, it seems like more people than men at the game. That was fun to watch a little highlight. Come on, man. It was on ESPN. Come on, man. Chris Carter, Chris Berman did that. So that was fun to watch. Loyola Academy out of Illinois. They're the best team in Illinois right now. Hallandale had a good win last week over American Heritage. Camarillo still undefeated. Elk Grove as well up in California. Roswell, the one-loss team out of Georgia. They're undefeated actually. Byron's the one-loss team out of South Carolina. And Spartanburg as well. Christian Brothers undefeated out of Missouri. They're in the state championship. And Steubenville, Ohio, who quietly they came back from all applications that were horrible. Obviously, what happened there early on in the 2000s, that really put a black mark on the school for a while. Kind of like the UFC with the sanctions, but not as steep, but it just put a black eye. No one wanted to go to that school. The football team lost their coach and everything. But now they've came back and they only lost 3 games in 3 years. So that's a team to look out for, man. I know they're a little lower level in Ohio, but they're still really between the 4. They're still a solid team. They're kind of like, I guess you'd call them the Memphis or Houston or whatever. They're not a top 5, but their team is definitely locked in more. Ryan Swartz, how's it going?
Great, Donovan. How you doing?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. I dived into my top 25 a little earlier this time. I just want to get it right into it. I'm letting no guests on this week, guys. By the way, there's no prospect guest on. I know we've had pretty much every week, but this week I just wanted to let the kids play, man. Ryan, these kids work hard during the season with school and midterms and everything going on. It's hard to get on the show. They're going to bed early and stuff like that. So we'll just let them
right on.
We'll just let them do it. But however, this has been an action-packed weekend, like I said. A lot of good teams out there. I know we got to go into the Pac-5, man. What are your impressions of the playoffs so far?
So far, so good. I'd say not as competitive as it's been in years past, as it's very top-heavy. But some good games last week. Really good game, Mater Dei, Sarah. I I think we discussed that one would be probably the closest one last week, and it turned out to be Mater Dei winning by a point, 28-27, trailed 20-10, I believe it was at halftime, but rallied in the second half. Khalil Tate had a monster game, but just not enough to get past Mater Dei. So a good game, setting up a great matchup with Centennial and Mater Dei this week. The Centennial got by Orange Lutheran for the second time this season, 49-27, but really wasn't even that close. I believe it was a 42-7 halftime lead for Centennial. Oaks Christian and Bishop Amat, that was a pretty good game for a little while, but Bishop Amat pulled away and ended up winning 61-40. Just like we talked about, a lot of points scored, but in the end, Bishop Amat was able to slow them down later in the game.
I gave you the kudos. I gave you the kudos on that, but right before you came in, I was talking about that game a little bit. I want to let you, go in and talk about it like you just did. But when Ryan comes on, I know he's undefeated. I don't think he picked the game wrong so far. I know I throw some fan question ones out that are kind of obvious sometimes, but I don't think you missed one actually. A Trinity, lost, but I'm not gonna count that. You didn't ever pick the game. You just said that that you thought they were top 4 teams. So.
I guess that's why you keep having me on, huh?
It is, man. I guess, whenever you lose, I won't text you, I won't
There you go.
But no, go ahead. Go ahead and get back.
Yeah, no, St. John Bosco got by Loyola 52-14. Not really tested at all in that game. We're getting closer and closer to what everybody hopes in that Centennial St. John Bosco matchup for the championship. But these two games in the semifinals should be really good. Mater Dei last season, whatever the case is, they have Centennial's number as far as slowing down that offense. They held them to their 2 lowest point outputs last season. The first game of the year, Mater Dei knocked off Centennial last year and held them to only 18 points. They had a rematch in the playoffs, and Centennial avenged that loss, but still only scored 27 points. So both point totals by far the lowest for Centennial, so I'm very interested in that matchup. I expect Centennial to get by, but nobody should be surprised if that ends up being close. And St. John Bosco, Bishop Amat, I expect that to maybe be sort of like the Oaks Christian Bishop Amat game with just a different winner. I think St. John Bosco will get by them, but probably a lot of points scored. So both should be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, they should be. I mean, St. John Bosco is a monster. I know Tim DeRuiter went there, the Fresno State coach.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw what he said. Somebody asked him about this. One of the coaches went to Bishop Amat on the roster. I guess it's like some kind of, they're going to wear each other's jersey or some sort of thing like that. So, he said this is the best high school football team ever put together, actually.
Wow. That's impressive. Yeah, they certainly are performing like it. We're going to find out a lot more about Bosco with this next few games that they have. If they get by Bishop Amat and then get by Centennial and get by De La Salle, I don't think you'll get any argument out of me by saying that's the best team ever, because that's about as good as a 3-game stretch as you can find in high school football.
It is. I mean, do you think this team is more talented than the team that won the national title, Josh Rosen's junior year? Do you think this team's a little bit better?
I would say no. But that could change after the next 3 games. I still expect De La Salle to beat whoever comes out of the South in the championship game. We'll see if that prediction holds up. But no, I think that team Bosco had a couple years ago, man, that was as loaded as it gets for me. So the offensive line had some monsters, Damian Mama and some other guys. McGrew as a sophomore and Rosen as a junior were both performing at a high level. Shea Fields, who's moved on to Colorado, and Jaleel Wadood, who's at UCLA, were a couple of studs. Just every position was loaded. So right now I will, and, not to take anything away from this team because they're loaded at every position again. But I would say right now today that 2013 team would beat this team.
Right. The 2014 team might be. maybe. I agree with you.
Yeah.
That team is one of the best. I mean, if you look back at all the top, champions out of at least the state of California, that's got to be one of the top 10. So I know there's some teams that are, there's D3, D1, D2, open division, all this in California. So they're one of the best teams, though. That team that won the national title was just one of the best ever history in any state. Texas, Florida. I mean, it's Damian Ballman, man, that's one of the best offensive linemen I've ever seen in person.
Yeah.
In high school.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, it's dominant. But, I mean, well, let me ask you this. I mean, your top four, what's changed? What hasn't changed? Or, is it the same? I mean, my top four is exactly the same. So I'm just going to let you talk about yours because I still have Colquitt moved up pretty far. USA Today moved him up to number 2, actually, which I was surprised about. But, I mean, I think IMG actually moved up too a lot, even though they didn't play. And I know a lot of people moved up. Mission Viejo finally, right, this year. A lot of people moved up into their at least top 25. But is your top 4 the same?
Yeah, my top 4 right now, like you said, what's changed? I think it's time to slide Bishop Gorman down 1 and let St. John Bosco leapfrog them. Bishop, as I mentioned, as I mentioned a few weeks ago, a big determining factor in Bishop Gorman's end-of-the-year ranking will be how its out-of-state teams that they've beat, how they fare in their state playoffs. And Bingham and Chandler have both been eliminated from their playoffs, both in the semifinal games. So although still 2 very good high school football teams, it would have been a lot better and a couple feathers in Bishop Gorman's cap if those teams could have went on to win their state championships. So with Chandler and Bingham getting knocked off, we're still waiting to see what Bellevue and Don Bosco Prep do. But I'm going to slide Bishop Gorman down 1 and have St. John Bosco as 1, Bishop Gorman 2, and also not to mention Bishop Gorman came off one of their worst wins of the season, just a 28-10 victory over Arborview, a local team who, to me, was very impressive. They passed the eyeball test. They looked like a good high school football team. But as St. John Bosco is just steamrolling through everybody, I thought the time was right to flip them. So St. John Bosco 1, Bishop Gorman 2, Centennial Corona 3. Centennial Corona will likely get its best win of the season if they get by Mater Dei this week. Then I have Allen, Texas at 4. They just squeaked out a win, sort of like Bishop Gorman. Didn't look too impressive with by beating a DeSoto team with 5 losses by only 1 point. But I think we'll both agree 5 losses or no losses. DeSoto's a tough game, especially because those two seem to play each other every season. But nonetheless, Allen advances. As they continue to advance, if they end up with another state championship, they should make some movement, especially when St. John Bosco or Centennial knock one or the other off. And then some honorable mentions, IMG right behind them, Colquitt County. Colquitt, I know they're getting a lot of love. They still haven't got the games that they've been waiting for towards the end of their state playoffs. I know they'll see either Archer or Mill Creek next week, assuming that they win, which will be a lot more meat on the bone for Colquitt's schedule. And then they'll likely see Grayson in the championship if everybody advances like assumed. So once Colquitt and Allen get to those points, then I could definitely consider shuffling some other teams around and getting them higher up there.
Yeah, let me tell you, I don't know if you knew this, Ryan, or people listening. I saw this weird stat. Weird because it's like hard to find. I don't really know how I saw it. But Georgia's top 4 teams seem to always advance. I think it was like a 92% chance, 92 or 93.
Wow.
So, like, usually the best teams in Georgia win. Like, there's no upset. That's a really high rate. I think the highest seed was like a 7, maybe, or something like that. And it was, really early 2005. I just wanted to throw that out because, you mentioned Grayson versus Colquitt. That's what everyone wants to see that. And I think it'll happen. I mean, like I said, usually the best teams in Georgia are always there. You never find too many upsets. if you ask historians of the Georgia high school football game. I guess at least for the past few years. But you can go ahead and do the rest of your honorable mentions, and I'll get into mine as well.
Yeah, Grayson, 2 Georgia teams back-to-back, Colquitt and then Grayson. Katy, Texas, the knock on them, just they really don't have any signature wins, but they should get one here soon. Just an incredible defense. They allowed about 22 points, I want to say, in their last game, and that was more than the 18 they allowed all season. So very impressive defense for Katy. And then I'll round it out with De La Salle and Archer as probably the 2 best one-loss teams in the country right now.
Okay, yeah, no, I mean, we're pretty much the same. Obviously, like I said, I have the same top 4. Katy is 6. Ocean Lake is in my top 10. I know you didn't mention them, but I mean, their state championship is Oscar C. Smith versus Ocean Lake. So it's going to be everything. And those are by far the 2 best teams in that state. So, that's going to be – if they win that, I think they'll move up. People will move them up like me. I guess I'm more projecting that they'll win. But I think they've just been really good all year, especially at the skill position. Then I have IMG at 8 and De La Salle at 9. And I had Mail at 10, but it could be Chalkville, or, Webb City, even Grayson, like you mentioned. So they're kind of bunched together maybe from like 15 to 10. I do want to mention that St. Thomas Aquinas was really good though. They finally bounced back. Jay Allen played good at quarterback. He's kind of been a little overhyped to me. Everyone has him in the top 5. I don't think he's there yet. He reminds me of Kyle Allen, but kind of what Kyle Allen is now, more so than when he was coming out. So he's a pretty good quarterback, though. And their skill positions are really good. Nick Bosa is starting to really warm up. It looks like that top 5 guy again. So that's a team that I think that can still win the state title in Florida. But is there any kind of sleeper team you're looking at? It doesn't have to be in California or West Coast. Anywhere in the state that's still in the playoffs that you think might be able to move into the consensus of the top 25s in the country?
Ooh, good question. Let me think about that one. One team that I think is probably pretty underrated. I believe they're in your top 25. Do you have Coleraine in Ohio? Are they in your top 25?
Yes, I do have Coleraine. I'm at 22, and I know they play Wayne, who's pretty hyped.
Yeah, which would be a big win for them.
On the road.
I think they're top 10 worthy. I think Ohio is a great football state, so whoever comes out of that state, top 10 worthy. Top 25, tough to say. I'll be better prepared for that question next week.
No, you're fine. I see you on the spot. I gotta. You're so perfect on the show. I gotta get you to hiccup every now and then, right? So I throw questions I don't tell you about. Yeah, no, Coleraine is good. Well, they're my son at 25. A lot of people they lost the one game in triple overtime by 1 point.
Wow.
So they are literally one play away from being a top 10 team in the country. But Ohio football has their top 15 teams can match up with anybody. It's like a big drop off though after those 15 to 20 teams. That's why California and Florida and even Jersey can rival Ohio because they're deep. They're deeper. Maybe not Jersey. Florida, California, Texas. Even Michigan's really deep. They don't have a top school except Saline, I guess. But anyway, the only team I would say is Tampa Catholic. I don't know if we called me talking about them earlier, but Tampa Catholic hosts Trinity Christian Academy out of Jacksonville. I think Tampa Catholic's going to win that game. It's a home game. They're both undefeated. The only difference is Trinity Christian went to Alabama and beat, I think, Spain Park.
Okay.
Other than that, it plays the same team pretty much. And I really like Tampa Catholic. They have 2 starting freshman receivers that are already on the Rivals and Scout.com. It's weird that 2 starting receivers are freshmen for one of the top teams in the state of Florida. Yeah, their quarterback's a sophomore. They have no seniors on offense, and they're already a top 15 team. They're 15 in Florida right now. I like that team.
Wow.
I looked at they're young, really young, but I like them. I think they had 19 seniors on the whole roster, which is crazy.
Good for them. That'll be a fun team to keep an eye on.
Yeah, keep an eye on Sabbath Catholic. Who knows, man? Trinity Christian Academy is the opposite of it. They're very experienced. In Florida football, I feel like it's kind of getting a bad rap. I don't know how you feel about it, Ryan, but I think, like, they don't have a top 10 team right now. I guess that's why. That's rare. So,
yeah, it's too bad. I mean, Florida football is great. Just a lot of parity in the state, which sort of takes away from the ranking, sort of like the Pac-12 in college football. A lot of parity, so these guys are going to beat up on each other each week, and a loss here, a loss there, a couple losses, and you're pretty much out of the top 10 or sometimes top 25.
Right, you are. And I see James Cobern has joined us. How's it going, Jimmy?
Pretty good. How's it going, Donovan? Also, Ryan?
Pretty
going
good.
Good.
Me and Ryan are obviously talking about some high school football, top 25, and we had our top 4 rankings. This show's going to be packed, like I said, for new listeners. Coming on, Joey Helmer of 247 Sports, CBS is going to be on. He also writes for the OU Insider as well as a lead writer. He's going to talk about Bedlam. Of course, that's the big game of the week. He might be a little biased, but we'll see who he picks. And we're going to talk about his boy and my boy, everybody's boy, I guess now. Baker Mayfield and his Heisman chances and concussion, and the recruiting class. They had 10 recruits at that game last week that they won. The Baylor game and the one they won this week, they had about the same number. This week's no different. All the top players from Oklahoma and pretty much New Mexico. All those kids are really good at Oklahoma play. They're going to be there as well. So, I mean, Oklahoma's dominant, but they ended up at number 3, which is really good for them. That's what they needed, and because they play another top 10 team this week, so they probably will not drop out unless they lose. No one's going to jump in, in my opinion, anyway. So, we're going to talk about Oklahoma, and we're going to, vault, of course, like we always do, to the 2009 recruiting class. Some of the players are currently in the middle of their careers, so it's going to be an odd one, just because we don't know what some of these players are. I don't know if there's any Hall of Fame type players, but because I haven't looked through the whole list yet. But there's some really good ones, but they're young. A lot of young guys in this class. We'll go over that class as well at the end of the show, and we might throw a little twist and turns in there, of course. But Ryan, before I guess I'll let you go and get you out of it. You can stick around. That's fine with me, but no worries. This is a random question too. I didn't tell you about it. The 4 teams. I would take. Someone put this on Twitter, and I stole it from them. I don't know who it was. I can't think of their name, but they said if Bishop Gorman, Bosco, Allen, and I think it was Katie that threw in there, which team would win that league? It's like a random question.
Good question. Really good. Where are we playing? Where's this? Is this in Texas? Is this neutral side? Is this where are we playing at?
I guess we're going to neutral side it. That would be the only fair thing because I think Gorman's unbeatable at home.
Yeah, and I bet Allen is very tough with 40 or 50,000 fans too. So probably 2 really good home field advantages. That's a good question. If you're asking me right now today, I think I'd have to go Bosco. To me, it seems like St. John Bosco might play a little better defense than Allen. And Bishop Gorman, they're pretty banged up right now. Their best defensive player, Haskell Garrett, he's been out since the Don Bosco prep game. He got injured in the second quarter. The defense has still performed well, but with him on the defensive line last week against Arborview, I don't think Arborview eats up as much clock and own time of possession like they did if he's in there, and that game is a lot more lopsided than it was. And also I think if you're putting St. John or Bishop Gorman against some of these national teams, without him, if he's not in the lineup, then I think Bishop Gorman's defense is quite a bit more vulnerable. He's very impactful in the run game, rushing the passer, getting his hand on balls and deflecting passes. So right now today I would take St. John Bosco. If everything's equal and everybody's healthy, I think Bishop Gorman is just a bad matchup for anybody, and I would put my money on them to come out of that foursome. Katie's just very hard to analyze because they have not played anybody close to what St. John Bosco or Bishop Gorman and now Allen have played. So I think I would go St. John Bosco to top Allen and Bishop Gorman if they played and Katie right now today.
Okay, yeah, I can agree with that. I know what's Katie's best win this year? Was it? They beat South Lake Carroll, I think. Earlier in the year.
I don't. South Lake Carroll, they've been a top 25 team, right?
In the state, they haven't. They've been close. They were close preseason.
Okay.
But it might not have been South Lake Carroll, but I think it'd be. I think that they'd have to play Cedar Park eventually. If they both make it. So I guess we'll have to wait a couple games, which is going to be a while because the Texas State playoffs, just like the California ones, they take forever for a high school playoff.
Yeah, I believe they end on the same day, if I'm not mistaken, the same weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they do, which is always fun. But I can agree with that. I'll take those teams as well. Well, I mean, I thank you for coming on.
My pleasure.
Next week. Oh yeah, next week's going to be. We're going to have a lot to talk about. We're going to have an extended high school. I circled the Cardnial and Seal Mater Dei game. Obviously, the Bishop of Mott one you're talking about. Even South Forsyth versus Colquitt. I don't think they're going to win, but it might be close. Austin out of Decatur plays Clay Chalkville. So there's a lot of good rivalry games, just like college football this weekend. So there's a lot of good, teams playing out there. So, like I said, thank you for coming on, Ryan Swartz. I appreciate it every week.
My pleasure, man. Always great being on. You guys enjoy the rest of your show.
Will do. Thank you. That was the guru, high school football guru, Ryan Swartz. Like I said, we were talking about top 25. It's going to change. I like it. I really want to do the top 10 next week. The bottom kind of fell out. The top did. So hopefully I like chaos. But sometimes. Anyway, James Cobern. We always try to find head coaches every week, and we always have more fired coaches. Iowa State, man. Paul Rhodes didn't make it. I was just talking about this on your podcast with Bill, actually. I just don't think Paul Rhodes had this anymore. He never really had it, I guess, to begin with, but he was alumni and, famous player.
Wait a minute. Another coach bites the dust?
Oh, yeah. You didn't hear about the Cyclones? The Cyclones? Yeah. I heard you have to understand, it feels like every coach is on the hot seat, even coaches that aren't even really losing games on the hot seat. Yeah. They're winning teams and they're on the hot seat. So I'm a little late to that, but wow, it's not 100% surprising, but still, like, another coach bites another one. Another one.
Jeez.
Another one. Like DJ Khalid, another one. I saw that meme somewhere. But, yeah, man. Paul Rhodes, he didn't win the big game this year. That's why. Every year he's upset at the top 25 team at home. Every year since he's been there, which has been a while. And that's why he keeps saving his job. Because they would always be, 5-5, and they'd be a top 10 or top 15 team. And, then they'd be bowl eligible. And they did that every year. Not so much these past 2 years. Last year they didn't win the game. This year they're second worst team in the conference. So
true. You're Iowa State. So, like.
But look at Iowa. Look at Iowa, man. They're right next door.
Yeah, but Iowa's a different thing. I mean, Iowa has a little more. I mean, I'm not trying to throw Iowa State under the bus or anything, but like when I think of Iowa, I think of a lot more stability, a lot more success long term than when I think of Iowa State. Like Iowa State could become Kansas if it really wanted to, like pretty easily.
Yeah,
and
they're pretty close right now. I think they're the second worst team
in the Big 12. Yeah,
the Big 12.
So what I'm trying to say is I remember when Kansas fired I don't know if it was Mangino or I think it was Mangino or someone like that who actually was pretty successful for a while. They fired him, and it's like, wow, you guys forgot you were Kansas, I guess. Like, you know, I don't know. And I'm not trying to say that they could do better. They definitely could. You know, I mean, there's always another coach out there that might take over the things and improve. But is Iowa State really ever going to be a Big Ten darling? I mean, or Big 12 darling? I don't know.
Possibly.
I don't think so,
but they have solid resources from what I know, just about their basketball team. I know Fred Hoiberg did a really good job at making Iowa State. Not a different sport. It's easier to get better quick in basketball because it only takes like 2 guys. But I think Iowa State has, you know, they're good. They can be Iowa, they're great, you know, but they're not. They haven't won a national championship. You know, they've never really been in the conversation. They lost in the Orange Bowl to USC. I mean, they've been there, but they haven't really been there to the big stage. I think Iowa State can do that. It would take a little bit of work and a lot of connections, mainly because the way that Kirk Ferentz has his staff is a lot of NFL experienced guys because he's in the NFL, and they just have better players, you know, from day one at the Hawkeyes. So, and they have more money a little bit, not too much more money. So I think they can do the job. They just have to score. I think Iowa State's always been a team that never was really that good at offense, which in that conference is not the right conference to be a non-scoring team. I know they've had their offensive players here and there, but I mean, this Paul Rose, they were more of a defensive team, so they've always been in the bottom. They've never been a top scoring team. Paul Richardson, he's our quarterback right now. Paul Richardson, he's okay. You know, he does some things sometimes, but they just need an overhaul. I hope they go to offensive coach. But we'll get into some of the coaches that I've been hearing, you know, Twitter recommendations and people from, you know, Rivals.com list as well. The first guy, actually, Jim, is Dino Babers, who we kind of talked about last week. So we really pretty much know about him. But he's a candidate. Jeff Braun, we talked about. Butch Davis was a guy I've seen candidate. Willie Fritz. I like Willie Fritz. I like that one. That's the Georgia Southern triple option coach. And they are really good. You know, they've only lost 3 games, I believe, or 4 games in the past 2 years. They're a really good team. I want to get into this coach and actually about him, though, Jim. Jeff Tedford, who is coaching the CFO right now and was a Cal coach for a very, very long time. What about him at Iowa State? Could he rejuvenate? He's not been away from the game. You know, he's been coaching every year. He's just bounced around a little bit. But what about that name for the Iowa State Cyclones job?
I mean, it would be interesting. He's still at Tampa Bay, though, right? Or they fire him, or did he move on?
He left and went to the CFL, the head coach of
okay. Yeah, I mean, Tedford would be fine. I mean, that wouldn't be a bad hire. I mean, he's still, you know, I mean, people remember his Cal teams. They obviously have a very specific type of offense, which has shown to develop, you know, decent quarterbacks. So I think if they want to go that route and kind of appeal in that sort of way, the offense will definitely improve under Tedford, at least, you know, in terms of college offense will improve. So that might not be a bad thing. It's just a matter if he wants to go back to college and if Iowa State's really the place he wants to go, because, as you know, there's numerous colleges available that he could possibly end up at. So Iowa State's just kind of one of those amongst many, but it's just a matter if he wants to go there or not.
Yeah, the rumor is that they source. So Joe Shad, he's really good reporter. So his sources usually come through. But there's a reporter that, a source that said that he wanted to come back to the college game to be a head coach. So there's been some rumors. He kind of had the itch last year, people were saying, but he took the CFL job because it kind of randomly came up. But yeah, if he wants to come back, that's the guy I would offer. There's no really connection, but you know, he's a winning head coach. And he's got all the experience and brings a quality name. Probably the biggest name on this list. So Matt Wells of Utah State is another candidate that I like. Utah State coaches Tree Branch is doing pretty good right now. I know Gary Anderson's struggling at Oregon State, but I think he'll turn it around eventually. Just going through overhaul of talent, top talent, going to the NFL or transferring. So I guess all of these names that I mentioned, which ones are the best, I guess, to you? My two, I guess I'd say. I forgot Brock Spack, actually. I didn't mention him, but he's a candidate. And this one, actually, I'll let you touch on. There's Todd Bonnekin, the third man. But Ken Nua Motola Lolo, I'm thinking I'm getting his name right. I hope so. But the Navy head coach. What about his offense? He's doing a tremendous job, by the way. Kenny Reynolds is he'll be on the ballot. He won't be in New York. He'll be on the ballot.
Well, I mean, he'll get the Northern Illinois treatment, and when they had that one quarterback there, I forgot his name, but he was kind of a triple option, not a triple option, but dual threat sort of system.
Colin Klein?
No, not Colin Klein. Northern Illinois.
Oh, Jordan Lynch, yeah.
Jordan Lynch.
I'm surprised I didn't think he would get an invite. I thought he would just be on the ballot. But he actually got an invite. It's cool that he got invited, though, because they usually don't even invite the small schools at all. They're always just on the invite list.
Oh, exactly.
But, hey, Ellen Moore got there, and
definitely. I think, at least to me, I think that in terms of appeal, Kenny Reynolds will probably get the sort of – it's a human interest story. It's Navy. He's a quarterback. They're good. So, that kind of thing. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. There's lots of guys who's there, and I definitely deserve to be there. But if he does end up going there. But, yeah, I mean, the Navy head coach, I'm a big fan of his. He's been consistent. He's been a guy that, despite his lack of talent, that's the only thing that's really held him back at times, because I remember games against Ohio State where he was giving them fits in terms of things. It's just the game turned into whose guys are better, and unfortunately Ohio State obviously has the top 5 recruits and Navy doesn't. So Ohio State was the one that won in that particular game, but they were giving them everything they got in that game, and a lot of it was through the strategy of that triple option. And again, it may not be fun to the NFL, right, to have offenses do the triple option attack, but, hey, let's bring it back, man, right? And why not start with a team like Iowa State that could build an identity around it, like so many different teams have, like Georgia Tech and Georgia Southern and many others. They've been able to build an identity on that, and it also helps. It helps in recruiting because you now have a specific type of guy you're looking for, and nobody else is looking for those types of guys at times because they only fit in that type of scheme, So, or they're kind of the undervalued guys in a way, if you will. So, not the biggest and stuff like that, but just guys that can move well and are smart football players. So, I think that would be a good fit for Iowa State if he wanted to coach there with the Navy head coach.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. Especially because everyone's air raid. Even Oklahoma is air raid-ish. I mean, mainly air raid. They do some diamond, a little bit shot a pistol and whatever, but everyone's air raid. Iowa State isn't air raid right now. Really, they're spready. They're not air raid. There's a difference. I think that if they went power I, or the triple option, that'd be great. No one would want to play them. If they could become Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech got into
the bring the wing T, the wishbone. Bring all that stuff back. Yeah.
I like this one. I don't know if he'd leave for Iowa State necessarily. I think maybe it's a better coaching job than Iowa State. Honestly, besides the conference, I mean, Navy's a good job because you know what you're going to get at Navy. They have the best. Military schools, the best athletes. Sorry, Air Force and Army, but Air Force is good too. But don't get me wrong, the Army's not bad usually, but Navy just they're the better team, better coaches, and I think the South better than Iowa State. Like I said, outside the conference, the money, probably get a pay raise. But I think I'll stay. I think he'll stay at Navy. Matt Wells, though, that's the guy that can leave Utah State. Utah State is pretty much Arkansas State, the Rocky Mountain version. That's a stopgap job. Beautiful, beautiful campus, Jim. I don't know if you've seen or been to Ogden, Utah. Nice. It looks like a perfect place. I don't know, it's just snowy. And like every house is like tickets in. Beautiful. But that's boring, right? No one wants to stay at Utah State. They're just a little team. They're the third best team in their state usually, So I guess that's why. But do you think Matt Wells would be a good candidate for this job?
Oh, sure. I mean, Matt Wells would bring, in terms of his defensive style, I'm a big fan of his defense, his defensive concept. Really good DB coach as well. My only thing, though, is in terms of how he teaches his DBs to be very handsy, I guess. And I'm not 100% sure how the Big 12 kind of, I don't have any statistics for me in terms of how many flags they throw in the Big 12 in terms of pass interference, stuff like that. But he has played in a conference in the Mountain West, which is very spready in many ways, with kind of spread offense type attack. So I think it would be a good hire. It doesn't really improve your offense that much because most of the offenses that he tries to get are, control the clock, methodical, don't throw a lot of picks. They're those types of offenses. He's very much a defensive-minded coach. And since you just fired a defensive-minded coach, going back to another one he might be better than the other one, but still going back to another defensive-minded coach might not be what you want, or who knows? I mean, it may be what you want. You just wanted more improvement, I guess. But that's the only question I would have is if Iowa State wants to be more offensive-minded, then he wouldn't exactly be the guy for the job. But if you want to get better on defense, he definitely would do that, especially with DBs.
Agreed. He has done a really good job with DBs. Which coach would you nominate for this job? I do want to say Butch Davis sounds like the leading candidate because he really wants to get into coaching. I like him on ESPN. He does a good job. He's got the country draw, of course, but I mean, he knows what he's talking about. Especially with recruiting too, because he knows that really well. He keeps up with it. A lot of the older gentlemen don't really keep up with recruiting sometimes, but he does. So Butch Davis, I guess, is the lead candidate for this job. Brock's back. He's a really good coach too. Probably the most underrated on this list. But which one would you choose out of the candidates we've been through?
Good question. I'd go Navy head coach if I personally if I want to do that. I think it gives you an advantage strategically. It gives you an identity, and it helps in terms of recruiting because you can kind of take a deep breath and a sigh of relief of whew, okay, because you're not really trying to go after the beast, the biggest and the fastest type of guys. You're just trying to get guys that can kind of run that scheme exceptionally well. You don't even need guys that are 200. You don't even need full size offensive linemen at times, as they've shown at Navy, because they have kind of the weight restrictions and stuff with that program, and still be effective with those weight restrictions. So I think that would be a good fit in terms of identity, and he's a really good coach. So I think if they wanted to do something new, something that could guarantee 8 wins a year, 7 wins, 8 to 7, maybe 6 on a bad year, then that would be the guy to do that, or better,
Yeah, I mean, that's a good nomination. I think, I don't know your record on nominations. You keep our records on your podcast. I need to start keeping yours. Yours is harder because you have to go against Twitter. So Twitter's not usually
right. Yeah.
But no, Ken Nuamotololo is a guy right. He's a good coach. if they beat Houston and they win the American Athletic Conference and Conference Championship, I think he should be on someone's Coach of the Year. He might not be in the main one, but he's going to be an AP Coach of the Year or something, Conference Coach of the Year, because, if they win that, 12-1, they legitimately could be the team that represents the non-Power 5 schools. And that school had a lot of pressure on them because, they almost have to win to make sure, people would notice the non-Power 5 schools. So they have the chip on shoulder if they get there. So, yeah, it's a good. Got to nominate. I have been shying away from the big names on these coaching lists, but I'm going to go Butch Davis. It's a risky hire. He's 63 years old. He's just a boom hire. I think Iowa State needs to make an impact. It's not like the guy sucks, man. He only was let go at North Carolina really because of NCAA violations, which is bad, don't get me wrong, but on the field, he did a really good job at recruiting. He had the top 2 recruiting classes of all time. And they didn't win as many games as they should have. I agree, but I see that, but it's still really good. Obviously, Miami. He's one of the top 5 coaches in the country. Cleveland Browns struggled, but I think if he has that itch and he wants to be there for the next maybe 5 years, 4 or 5 years, and maybe he can build a good enough staff, somebody takes over for him, let's do it. It'd kind of be like the Larry Coker hire for UTSA. They kind of just went for the biggest name they possibly could. Because what do they have to lose? They're already, not the best team. They're pretty low. They're not Hampton. They're not the worst team, but they're not too far from it. They're really close to that and being closer to being maybe even Texas Tech or Texas, recruiting and getting names. And so they need a battle. And they need Butch Davis to do it, I believe. But Ken wouldn't be bad, and Willie Fritz, who's pretty much same option as Ken with the triple option. He might be ready for a big-time job, but maybe he might not be this year. I think he should get Georgia Southern because they could go undefeated next year. I looked at their roster, young, and they play 2 Georgia teams, Tech and Georgia, and they almost beat Georgia. They should have won that game, so that's going to be fun to watch that too. But, yeah, do Ken, Nua Masalolo, and my guy, Butch Davis, and people named Are you liking Butch Davis at all for this job? From should he just
be honest with you? I was surprised Butch Davis is still alive, but
man, you don't see him on ESPN every week. Come on.
You know what? I to be honest, I don't. I'm trying to think the last time I watched ESPN legitimately, other than just watching a football game.
Yeah, I think he does the.
It's been a while. He's probably on some show on ESPN.
Yeah, he's on Joey Galloway and Danny Cannell and the other guy.
Right. Yeah. So he's still alive. He was a decent coach. If he wants to get back into it, fine. If Iowa State wants to be his place, fine. I just think that they could do, in terms of changing the identity of a program, putting him on a path to consistently win, every year with a new strategy would be, that's what you do when you don't have all the resources to go out and get the big gun. You have to, do a little more, strategic, in terms of your plan of attack. So that's one reason I kind of prefer the Navy guy. But Butch Jones, fine coach. He could go there and make a program there that could be successful. But I just think it'd be more consistently successful with a Navy approach.
Okay, yeah, I can totally see where you're coming from. We'll see. I feel like I'm going to win because people don't really know who Ken is.
You might win.
But you might be right.
You may win.
Yeah, you might be right. We're doing hypothetical, obviously, but hey, who knows? We don't know who's going to be right and wrong, Exactly.
This is not, we don't have insider information, right? Insider
not
information. We're speculating on things that are happening because that's what football fans do. So, yeah.
Exactly. Well, hey, we actually have an insider right now. That's ironic. We got Joey Helmer in, am I right?
Yeah, I'm on here. How are we doing, guys?
We're doing great, man. We got Joey Helmer from 24/7 Sports, CBS Sports, and OU Insider. We were just talking about the bottom of that conference, and you're pretty much at the top. We were Sooner, of course. You covered those guys. They got a big game coming up with Stillwater. Bedlam matchup. College game day is going to be there. It's going to be one of the biggest games of the season because of what's going on. Oklahoma's number 3 in the country. Just saw those rankings come out. They skipped ahead of a couple teams. Iowa, Notre Dame, Michigan State right behind them. So it's going to be fun, man. We got a lot to talk about with you, man. What do you think about the game coming up?
I don't know. I'm having trouble hearing you a little bit, but I think you're asking me about the playoff rankings and kind of Oklahoma going into this game. Quite frankly, I was thoroughly shocked Oklahoma moved up to number 3. I thought maybe a chance at 4. More kind of thought they'd be in the 5-6 range just based on some of the previous rankings that they've come out with the first few weeks. But getting into that 3 spot, and really Oklahoma controls its own destiny here this weekend. And this is a huge Bedlam game. I mean, it's 2 teams always with the in-state bragging rights. It's Bedlam in the last few years. It's been really intense games year in and year out, and some memorable moments these last several years in particular. But you talk to as the rankings came out, we were around the team just kind of at the tail end of that, and they don't really seem too concerned about the rankings right now. I think that's what's special about this Oklahoma team this year. And you hear so many teams talk about, well, we got to focus on 1 week at a time, and it doesn't always come together that way. It doesn't always you don't see teams necessarily really live that out, I guess. But this is one team that's really taken a singular focus every single week this season, and especially since that Texas game. And I think that's obviously what's been able to get them to the point they're at right now. It's just that they really focus on the next game at the schedule, be it Kansas or Iowa State or a tough road contest at Baylor or last week against TCU when things were kind of unraveling in the second half, and they were able to kind of pull that game out. So, yeah, really interesting game coming up here for the Sooners.
Yeah, you said something that kind of caught my ear, and I said this in the beginning of the season. When they lost to Clemson, that was embarrassing. I'm sure, you watched that game. The fans' reaction was horrible. They got blown out by a backup quarterback, a Clemson team that wasn't really better than them at all. And a lot of people thought that was a national championship team. The heart and soul that they play with is unlike anybody else in the country. Now, are they the best? I'm not sure, but obviously number 6. The transfer from Texas Tech got all the heart and soul. He's the man. But even Eric Stryker, Zach Sanchez, or Thomas, or any of those guys, Charles Tapper played a really good game. The heart and soul of that team is special, especially with the head coach they have and offensive coordinator. So I found that, to be the thing. They have that it factor. Do you think they'll pull out the victory in Stillwater this weekend?
Yeah, I heard some of what you said. I don't know if I'm having bad phone service here or what, but all those. I think what's interesting, the last time that Oklahoma went to Stillwater, you had of course, the Sooners won, and all those guys you mentioned, not Baker Mayfield, but Eric Stryker and Charles Tapper on the last play of the game, and all that stuff that happened when, the fans are throwing snowballs and turkey legs at OU as they walked off at the end of that game after Blake Bell threw the touchdown to Jalen Saunders. Before that, they're excited to come back to Stillwater after that. And talking about Baker Mayfield, I think you asked me about him, and this is a guy that the whole team has really rallied around Baker Mayfield. It sounds oversimplified to say that, but this is a guy that's been fiery, and he's quite different from Oklahoma quarterbacks you've seen in the past. Normally, you think Oklahoma, a prestigious program, and guys kind of matter-of-factly, whether you talk about Sam Bradford or Jason White, just not quite as fiery guys, but this is a guy that every single play, he's fiery. If you saw him last week against TCU, when he threw of course, it was easy for us to tell that something wasn't right with Mr. Mayfield when he threw the touchdown to D.D. Westbrook. And normally the guy's going to be sprinting down to the end zone to celebrate with his teammates, but he just kind of casually walks off the field. But, he's a guy, like I said, that they've really rallied around and on both sides of the ball that's been able to get them to the position they're in right now.
Couldn't agree more, man. I hope you can hear me a little bit better. Try to make sense. Well, as far as Baker Mayfield goes, his Heisman chance, obviously he's banged up. I'm pretty sure he'll start with a head injury if he clears. I'm not sure if he cleared yet, but if he goes and he has another big game, what are his chances of winning the Heisman next Saturday or 2 Saturdays from now?
I changed my location a little bit, and I heard you loud and clear that time.
Okay, awesome.
I think I actually just got done covering Oklahoma's basketball game here, but if you look at his game last week, before he exited that first half, he had a pretty good first half. Now, obviously, his statistically throwing the ball, he was about 50%, which is not good for him. But he threw a couple touchdowns, and he was escaping pressure like he always does and running the football. So had he been able to play that second half, that would have been huge for his Heisman chances. But I still think he's, in terms of getting on the stand in New York at the end of the year, I still think he's very much in contention for that. And a good performance in Bedlam this weekend is gonna have him there, especially with where you see Oklahoma at number 3 now in the college football playoff rankings. They're gonna look to that guy that's got them there, and that's Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, they are. The only thing that's holding him back was that second half. As you said, he doesn't have a conference championship. Sean Watson, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey all have those championship games. So, or Ezekiel Elliott might have one as well. So all the Heisman guys have one. Dalvin Cook doesn't, but I'm not sure if he'll get there for sure or I'm not sure that. But Baker's going to be there for sure, pretty much. It's going to be in New York, but I don't know. I think he's going to end up finishing like 3rd or maybe 2nd at the highest. I don't know if he's going to win. It's going to take Alabama losing. Probably it shouldn't, because that's kind of what it should be about necessarily. But it'll probably take them losing for him to win, in my opinion. Maybe to Auburn or something like that. But Florida still don't have a Heisman candidate. But yeah, I mean, this Oklahoma team, like I said, I think they deserve that number 3 spot. Do you think, I'm guessing you thinking they'll get in, even if they obviously don't have a conference championship. But if they win the game, take care of business in Bedlam, should they still be in the top 4? Because I know Notre Dame beat Stanford and things might change this weekend. Michigan State obviously plays Penn State, and they might, end up playing undefeated Iowa. So there's a possible chance Oklahoma could drop out, I guess. But you think they'll have a, good shot at being in?
Well, I say, kind of like I talked about before, I thought they would be more in the 5-6 range. And so had you asked me this question earlier in the evening, I would say I think that their resume is going to be strong enough to get them in. I think after you factor in the conference championship, to me, their biggest competition was and biggest roadblock was going to be Notre Dame. I think the Big Ten is going to cancel each other out. There's even a chance if Nebraska beats Iowa that the Big Ten could totally take itself out of the picture if Iowa would turn around and beat Michigan State in the Big Ten championship. But now that Oklahoma's in 3rd place with this latest rankings, Oklahoma's in this position right now where it controls its own destiny. I think whether they win by 1 or win by 20, they win this game this weekend, and they're in, plain and simple. I think that the committee has made that very clear that they are respecting their body of work now. It took them a while to respect that body of work. I think they looked at that Texas loss and said, well, how good is this Oklahoma team really if they're losing to Texas? But I think they're finally able to get past that, and you're looking at a team that, quite frankly, if you've seen this Oklahoma team the last 6 weeks since that Texas game, it's one of the best 2 or 3 teams in the country, and that's right where they're at right now.
Yeah, outside of Alabama, since that loss, they've been the best team. Alabama's been just a tad bit better because their front seven is the best I've ever seen in my life. But other than that, man, on offense, Oklahoma, they've been that team. And their defense really showed up. Instead of there too, they really showed you the all-around game. And Notre Dame's done a great job, man. I'm not taking anything away from those guys or Iowa. I know Iowa is undefeated. I don't really buy into Iowa too much. I don't think they're as good as they are, but they're up there. Michigan State's up there now too. So, and this Oklahoma State team is not to be taken for granted. We saw what happened last year. They don't have Tyreek Hill now to the ball to, so they'll be fine on that aspect. But this is a really good matchup. Don't take Oklahoma State for granted. They're always lurking. This year they were a couple plays maybe away from being, in that top that number 3 spot that Oklahoma has. So, it's gonna be a fun matchup. But Jim Cobern, I'm gonna let you ask any questions you have. I'll open it up for Joey Helmer of the OU Insider. Do you have any questions for him tonight?
Oh, sure. Well, going back to kind of, with this Oklahoma team this year, one game in particular that I felt like you saw glimpses of what it is was in the Tennessee game. And I only say that because when you watch the first half of that Tennessee game, pretty much 3 quarters into that game, I was like, there's no way Oklahoma's going to win this game. They're done. It's just not going to happen. The defense was able to, keep things where it needed to be for the comeback to happen. But in your mind, is that kind of the first game of the season where at least the Baker Mayfield legend or the wow, this guy can actually do some special things? Was that kind of the first game where this team kind of realized that they could do some things that they wouldn't normally be able to do with another quarterback?
Yeah, that's a really great point, and that's a great question and a great topic. I think back to as this whole season has unfolded. I think back to that night in Knoxville and just how special that was. Listen, that's what championship teams do. What Oklahoma did in that game. And when you talk about Heisman moments, Baker Mayfield, one play in the fourth quarter, really comes to my mind in that game. And not a whole lot happened on the play, but you got a first down out of several Tennessee guys were chasing him, and he scrambled and got out of the pocket, and he forced a holding penalty on Tennessee. And if you remember, I believe it was with 9 or 10 minutes to go in the game, and Oklahoma was down by 14 points. They end up going down. That was a third down play, like I said, and they end up going down and scoring their first touchdown and climbing back and ultimately winning that game. And so, yeah, that was the first moment where I think you kind of saw. Obviously, that was before the Texas game, which was a shocker to everyone after that point when Oklahoma goes and wins in Knoxville against a Tennessee team that I feel is a really pretty good Tennessee team that's come together and lost several games like that they could very much easily be in the college football playoff discussion had they not. But, yeah, that was a special night, and maybe the night when the Mayfield legend was kind of bored.
Oh, absolutely. And another sort of thing, Charles Tapper, this is a guy that most people that have been watching Oklahoma, they go back to the Alabama game and go, wow, this is a guy. And then kind of disappointing after that point. But obviously the last couple games has really started to go on. In your eyes, is it him, and who else on this Oklahoma defense has really stepped up in ways that they haven't previously? And what do you think is the catalyst for some of these things on the team?
Well, everyone knows about, you talked about Charles Tapper, but everyone knows about Eric Stryker, and everyone knows about Zach Sinchez's big play potential to pull off interceptions. He had a couple in the last game and guys like that. But one guy that really stands out on tape, if you talk to coaches around the league, is Charles Walker. Charles Walker has been a beast up front for the Sooners, and so you've had him and Tapper and Matt Diamond and guys like that chasing the quarterback, and linebackers have filled and done a really good job this year as well. And so there's a ton of playmakers for Oklahoma on the defensive side of the ball, the number one defense in the Big 12.
Exactly. And in terms of offense of players, I've been a big fan of Sterling Shepard. Obviously, D.D. Westbrook has come up big as well, and everybody knows about Perrine and Joe Mixon. Out of those guys, who were some unsung heroes, at least on the offensive side of the ball, and who are some guys, at least going into the Oklahoma State game, that might have a few game-changing kind of plays that nobody would kind of expect?
Well, if I had to choose a guy that, if you said, outside of the regulars, of course you have Sterling Shepard, you have Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine. By the way, both of those guys are supposed to be good to go this weekend. Perine returned to practice. They both have sprained ankles, but they're light sprains and they should be fine. But I keep looking to a guy like Mark Andrews that can make big plays in the passing game. You look a few years back in that 2010 game, how that kind of ended. I talked about the special games that there's been in this series. That was it was back and forth at the very end of that game. I remember just how tense every moment of that game was. But James Hanna at tight end had a long touchdown reception, if you remember, and Mark Andrews has a chance to do those kinds of things. I think you'll see your usual suspects, obviously, Shepard and Perine and Mixon and Baker Mayfield thrown to all his receivers. And there's several good ones. You got a guy like D.D. Westbrook that could step up and have a huge game too.
Yeah.
Do you have any more questions on? Oh, go ahead, Tom.
I was going to say, I like that Mark Andrews mentioned. He was really good prep star high school, kind of receiver / tight end type guy. I think he's been pretty good this year, especially lately. But next year he's going to blow up, man. He might be one of the better tight ends in the country. He's had some really good ones. So I think that was a good call on that. I guess a question that I do have, one of my folks before I let you go and get out of here. I know you just came back from the basketball. Did they win tonight, by the way? The basketball team win tonight?
They did, yeah. It was not a close game. they took care of Incarnate Word. So.
Yeah.
92 to 53. So that tells you just about all you need to know about that game.
Yeah, it's a good basketball team too. I wish I had a basketball show so I could talk about them a little bit. But I'll look at the basketball team. This team, like I said, heart and soul, obviously a lot of skill, a lot of best two deep maybe in the country, definitely in that conference. This team going forward in recruiting, how do you think they're doing so far? And are they going to snap any more big-time recruits that we don't know about, maybe, in the winter?
Well, this is it's always the time of year when you see the last several years, of course, OU hasn't been in the top 5 in terms of recruiting, but it's always at this point in the year when it seems like Bob Stoops and his staff starts to lock down the guys that they're really wanting. And a linebacker and Caleb Kelly is a guy to look at out of California. And there's several, high-profile prospects that they're in on. And I think if they're making a run at this thing to go to the national championship, you're going to see a couple of years ago when Oklahoma beat Alabama. Right after that, of course, Joe Mixon committed to the Sooners. And you see dominoes fall. And this is really, quite frankly, this is what this Oklahoma program needs right now. They've been starving for national attention in terms of getting back into the national championship picture, and that's going to pay dividends. You're going to see in January, if Oklahoma is in the mix to win the national championship, you're going to see that pay dividends for the Sooners on the recruiting trail. I truly believe that.
I agree with you. You know, like I said, they got some really young talent. I know they got Ricky DeBerry last year, I liked a lot. And they get Caleb Kelly out of Clovis up there in Fresno. That'll be a good tandem linebacker for many years to come. And like they're deep. They're just so deep everywhere. And even I like their backup quarterback, Cody Thomas. So I'm not sure how long he's going to be there. You know, being the third string quarterback. I like him a little bit more than Trevor Knight. Yeah, I mean, this team has sky's the limit potential, especially with Lincoln Riley's done a fantastic job. Keep running the ball because it's working. You know, let Baker do his thing for us. You know, he's got to get his 25 to 30 through the game, but they got to run the ball. They've been too dominant to let it go now. So I'm sure.
Yeah. You know, that's a great point about Lincoln, though. The innovation that he's brought offensively has been game changing. You know, he has been able to the first few games of the season. You kind of saw the parts and pieces kind of coming together, and you didn't see everything offensively come to fruition for a little bit. You look back at that Tennessee game, like we talked about, they had nothing going offensively in that game, and all of a sudden they just flipped the switch in the fourth quarter. And outside of the Texas game, you look after that, just what they've been able to do offensively has been outstanding. And Lincoln Riley coming out with the trick play a few games ago against Iowa State on the very first play of the game, and they score a touchdown to Flowers there, and just stuff like that Lincoln Riley's been able to do. It's just been huge offensively for OU this year. Yeah,
it has. I totally agree with you. James, any last questions for Joey before we get him out of here?
Oh, no, those are my final questions. But just again, thanks for coming on the show and for sharing your insights, man.
Definitely.
Yeah, I got one last question for you before I let you go. As far as guys moving forward, I love the NFL draft. I can't say that. What are the best prospects you can hear? I know you mentioned Walker and Tapper, and obviously, they got a couple other ones. Who are those guys that we need to keep an eye on for the NFL draft?
What was that? Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. Who are their top NFL draft prospects going forward?
You're talking about younger guys that we're looking at as far as the future?
No, NFL draft guys that are getting out of there.
Yeah, you look at guys like, of course, Tapper, and it'll be interesting to see where Stryker fits in. He's an interesting fit in terms of his size, but the versatility that he brings with his speed, it'll be interesting to see. I think, don't put a gun to my head, but I expect Zach Sanchez will come back next year. And Sterling Shepard, of course, no one can argue what he's done, throughout his career at OU, one of the best ever receivers. And so, OU's definitely in terms of the next level prospects he got, and it'll be interesting to see as we go forward with draft projections for all those guys.
Yeah, it will be. I mean, it's interesting that Zach's going to come back to school. I mean, that'd be great for him. I thought he was the top 100, top 50 pick last year. He's done a really good job this year. I know he's gotten burned a couple times. He has trouble with speed a little bit, but gosh, he's just a ball. He's always around to play the big play, always there. Really, he's number 15 in every play, pretty much. He's somewhere on the pile or chasing down somebody if they do get a big play. So he's a guy I like, and always their whole secondary is really good. And, Charles Tapper is, a big-time prospect that's making his way back. His tape was outstanding versus Bailey. It was really good last week as well. So thank you for coming on tonight, though. I really appreciate it.
Hey, one more thing I want to add that I didn't necessarily say. It might be fairly obvious, but with this Oklahoma team, with where they're at right now, me and my coworker James Hell, we always kind of go back to last year when we were in Orlando, and OU had just been destroyed 40-6 by Clemson in that game, and we're talking to the players afterwards, and one of the first guys to come out to talk to us was here he comes, was Eric Stryker. And everyone wanted to know what he was going to do. Was he going to go? Was he going to come back? And, immediately he came out, and the first thing he talked about was not even the game that they had just played. He said, I'm coming back, and we're going to change this thing, and we're going to change the culture at this program, and that's why I'm coming back, because I'm not going to leave Oklahoma the way it is right now. And you've seen that transformation behind leadership from him and the rest of the guys. And so I think that's very important to point out. At this point, you're looking at a team that lost, however that many 5 games last year, and was down in the pits, and of course coaching changes and things like that. But a leader like Eric Stryker and other guys have been able to pull this thing together.
Yeah, they have, man. That's a good point to make. And, I heard in preseason they were one of the top 5 teams. They should have been top 5 preseason, but they snuck up on people. I'm glad they were ranked 13 or whatever they were, because they've always been in the top 5, top 10, and it just doesn't work out. Something happens, they choke here and there, they might lose a big game. But this year they kind of slid on the radar, let people talk about Baylor and DCU and the post over there in Stillwater, but it just keeps sneaking up on people. I think that's what they've done. And I guess that goes back to Eric Stryker. Just they were embarrassed by Clemson, and all those guys pretty much came back for something special. And they're close. They're a couple games away. So, but thanks. Again, thank you, Joey Helmer, for coming on the show, man. We appreciate you coming on.
Hey, thanks, guys. It's been fun.
Yeah, no problem. That was Joey Helmer of 247 Sports, OU Insider with CBS. Really, really good insight. I think we've been joined by Bill Carroll.
Hello there.
How's it going, Bill?
Yeah, I was sorry I didn't get a chance to ask him what he thinks Eric actually weighs, because Nolan, my Oklahoma guy, says that he thinks that max he's 223, and probably less.
Well, I will tell you that Eric does. I'm pretty sure he did the depth chart for Oklahoma on 247 Sports. So. He could weigh more now, he can weigh less, I'm sure, but he has him at 219 on 247.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, 219. Said he actually came in a little bit bigger, surprisingly, but I guess he wanted to keep the speed. Wouldn't work that extra 4 or 5 pounds, but yeah,
that's the whole thing. Is James always makes this little joke about edge safeties, though. I could see that coming up.
They're a real thing.
Quasi.
They're coming for us.
Exactly. Man, edge safeties actually made an impact in last week's NFL games. If you watched, I watched all the games because I'm sick that way. So, having watched 14 games, in 5 of those games, edge safeties made an impact.
Yeah, Stryker's a guy that Joey was talking about. Obviously, when you were here, I think at the end of the show, I was hard to call, but he was talking about him. He's talked about him since he started, man. I've been knowing Eric for a little while now, since he's been over there, and he's always mentioned Stryker as a guy to look out for when they signed him. He was a pretty high recruit, but not too high. But they got him there. He's always an achiever, kind of tweener type guy, and he's saying he's gotten better and better. So I think he can make some impact plays on Sunday. Depending on what happens to combine and stuff like that. And like you said too, on the flip side of that, guys leaving, but they do have guys leaving, but it looks like they might keep they'll probably keep Mayfield and Sanchez, who are 2 underclassmen that could test the draft, but I think Zach Sanchez will stay because Joey's not the only one that's really close to that program. Looking like he might stay, even though he almost entered last year as a sophomore. It'd be cool if he stayed for senior year, kind of add to the OU record. The recruiting class coming in is really good. It should be top 10.
Yeah.
Could be top 5. Maybe Oklahoma just doesn't. If you know anything about how Bob Stoops signs guys, he doesn't oversign guys like other coaches in the SEC. Not in name. Bill probably knows him.
You mean does he rhyme with Kagan? Or no?
Yeah. He oversigns people. He has
Raven? Ray-Ban?
Yeah.
Does he rhyme with Ray-Ban?
Yeah.
Satan.
Well, Bob Stoops does a really good job at he has a 65 deep. I mean, obviously they get 85, but he has a 65 guys. They're really good at just getting the top 65 guys, but they don't have those extra 20 guys lingering around like other schools that are just 5-4 stars but don't ever get a chance to play. Most of his guys play eventually. The depth chart sets up for them to play. So Oklahoma's done a good job of recruiting. I don't think they'll have a top 5 class. I think they'll have a top 15, 20 class. Just depends about the quarterback situation, really. Because they might not get a quarterback to come in at all. That would change kind of everything. I know they have one quarterback, but Oklahoma usually gets 2 per class, so that might drop them a little bit. And just they have a lot of guys at receiver, running back too, that are underclassmen, so that's good holding back in. But we're gonna get into our 2009 recruiting class, guys. Blast from the past, vaulting, going back to the top 100 rivals. Recruiting class. Oh man, I mean this class is pretty good. It was actually considered at the time to be one of the best recruiting classes ever. Some people had it as a recruiting class of the decade. I don't know if it ended up being a recruiting class of the decade. It was really good as far as name potential, but a lot of the guys who went to the high for it, a lot of TBA to be determined because there are a lot of young guys. The first guy on the list, Matt Barkley of Mater Dei High School. He was the number 1 player in the country. 6'2", 226 pounds, out of Santa Ana, California. I mean, he had a pretty good college career. I mean, I watched every snap Matt Barkley, all of them, since freshman year at Mater Dei, pretty much. He started 8 years in a row from Mater Dei to the end of his USC career. He had a good career. Obviously, he was an All-American, 2-time All-American, and he was the Player of the Year, the Country Gatorade Player of the Year, and State of California at Mater Dei. But he didn't live up to the NFL hype, and he had a kind of weird ending to his career with a shoulder injury and just a lot of off-the-field stuff that's happened with coaching staff. Not really him. He's a great kid, of course. But I'll give Bill this one. Matt Barkley is dear to my heart, of course. I know his cousin's Robbie Boyd, actually. But, he didn't work out with the Eagles. They traded him, and he's on the Cardinals backup. He's still a pretty rabid young guy. I think he's 25. Do you think he has a chance to maybe be a starting quarterback in the NFL one day, Bill?
I need you to speak up or a little bit. You broke up on me, too. You're asking me about Barkley?
Matt Barkley.
What's the question? Matt Barkley?
Yeah, he was asking about Matt Barkley, yes. Yeah.
I think he's more of a high-level backup, spot starter. I mean, the lifestyle of T.J. Yates is sort of the kind of thing we're talking about, a guy who might, if you need a guy to play, say, 4 to 6 games and go 500 for you. I'm as big a fan of Matt Barkley as you're likely to find. I think he's incredibly solid mentally and terrific character. If you could somehow, we always talk about this, if you could somehow put, his soul and brain in, the body of, name guy who's not quite getting it done. I mean, if you could somehow combine he and Terrell Pryor, you'd have an unstoppable killing machine at quarterback. But unfortunately, you can't do that. He's the kind of guy that coaches love, and so he'll be able to.
I think we lost you, Bill. Are you still there?
Yep. I think he could have been. I think he'll be around as long as he wants to be around because, like I say, he's the kind of guy that coaches love. He has, those qualities that coaches look for, right? He's smart, hardworking, just solid in every way. But he's not super talented. And he was so advanced, sort of like with Clausen to some extent, so advanced in the nuances of the game and accurate and things like that at a way that most high school players, most high school quarterbacks just aren't. He was basically a college kid playing against high school kids because of his accelerated maturity. But then by the time he got finished playing with college kids, it all kind of caught up to him. And then he got to the NFL, and he's still a college kid in terms of his physical capabilities. He doesn't have a lot of natural NFL juice, for lack of a way of putting it. And like I said, I'm a fan. I mean, he's the kind of guy I'd want on my team. I don't know if I want to be my starter, but I definitely want him on my team.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, Matt, like I said, he's one of the – you did mention Jimmy Clausen. That's been good. Not just hearing them, but as far as what they did in the state and their mental game, the IQ was really heavy. They were both 4-year starters at really prominent schools in the LA Orange County area. So, and, they won a lot of games. Matt Barkley was calling his own plays, young, as a junior. He was one of the guys that just, Bruce Willis, the head coach, said he was the best quarterback at Mater Dei. He's got a lot of good quarterbacks. He's a trophy, a winner, a candidate. He's coach, and also, Max Wittick after him and Travis Johnson. But they said Matt Barkley's the best, and he has it. He is a coach's guy, agreed. A great guy. He'll do everything for you. You need to on the board. He might not be able to execute it, and that's, I guess, what's holding him back, obviously. And I think, I don't know if he's going to ever be a starter quarterback. I think he'll be a spot starter. Like I said, he's had a really long career. As long as he pretty much wants to be in the game, I think that they'll allow him to beat it. The next guy is Bryce Brown. Oh, man, yeah. Bryce Brown didn't work out too well at Tennessee. Or, he slipped. He was supposed to go to K-State in every way. Supposed to go to Miami. Supposed to go everywhere. He's been around the block. He didn't work out. He was a really complete running back. Think about it, though. He reminded a lot of people of Shady McCoy, but bigger, actually. So they ended up playing together. So not too long after that for the Eagles. But he didn't work out as well. He's not with the team right now. He's a free agent. He's been a free agent all year. Who knows if he'll get signed. I mean, he's healthy, but he's just not the greatest back. Ruben Randall is number 3, who actually played quarterback his senior year. But the years before that, he was a wide receiver. Then moved back to wide receiver at LSU. Okay career, not too bad. DJ Fluker is number 4. DJ Fluker and Trent Richardson actually is number 5, who's his teammate. I'll let Jim talk about DJ Fluker and Trent Richardson. Their careers are obviously a lot different. Tell me about DJ Fluker's career. What do you think about him going forward?
Well, he's had a interesting career so far. Ridiculously long arms. In fact, he should be an All-Pro if you're into arm length, but of course arm length isn't the only thing that makes All-Pro offensive tackle. But he was somebody who surprisingly was not the greatest, in terms of his athleticism and stuff like that. He was above average in every sort of thing you could think of, but not super duper elite in terms of how he tested as an athlete. So in other words, he was a similar athlete to guys like Jason Peters and Trent Williams. It's just Trent Williams and Jason Peters were the cream of the crop, and he was more so the cream. Well, not the cream, but the whatever that stuff is below, in between the cream and the he's kind of close.
Way.
It's hard to explain.
The way.
Right. He's the way.
The way.
Yes, the way. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. My brain, whatever. But he was a guy who had similar athleticism to a guy like Eugene Moreau, was a little bit more, or Travell Wharton. You guys remember that guy? I don't know.
Yeah,
or Vladimir Ducasse, but a little more fluid than that. But he I like Fluker. I mean, I didn't think he should have went as high as he went in the first round, but of course that's because everybody was panicking because all the offensive linemen were taking. They're like, oh my gosh, what do we do? He's not going to be there in the second round because all the so many guards and tackles were taken in that top 10 that people were flipping out, and they're like, we got to get him now. So, but he's had a pretty decent career. Obviously, he struggled at tackle. They moved him into guard, which may be the better fit for him based on just his height and that sort of stuff. But I mean, he's a solid player and has a mean streak in him, which everybody likes, in terms of that kind of stuff. But he's always an interesting player because there's so many people who, and I'm not trying to call him out or anything, there's so many people who go, oh, arm length is the most important factor ever. Well, this is a guy who legitimately had probably the longest arms on record, at least with me. He's there, maybe, in terms of having just ridiculously long arms and obviously not turning into the super-duper all-pro guy that they imagine. So he's just an example of a guy where he's a successful offensive lineman in terms of if you put him inside and do that kind of stuff. But he's not exactly – all I'm trying to say is he's a guy that probably is a little overrated just because of arm length and kind of stuff like that. But he is a very huge individual. I mean, if you see DJ Fluker in person, you wouldn't realize – you would think he's much bigger than – he's one of those people that's kind of funny because he looks bigger than what he really is. Like, when you see DJ Fluker in person or on a picture, you go, that guy has to be 6'7" and 300 blah, but he's not. He's more like 6'5". But he's been an interesting kind of player. Obviously, I think he's going to continue to be a successful offensive lineman. But I just think that in terms of the hype, he's a little too much hype in terms of what his physical capabilities were, because he was not Jason Peters or Trent Williams level athleticism. He was more so in the middle of the extreme. He wasn't incredibly unathletic, but he also wasn't incredibly athletic either. So,
well, tell me about his teammate then, who's number 5. I mean, I guess 80-90% of the draft should have missed on him. Trent Richardson. He was second best running back in his class, but I mean, this was considered one of the best running back classes ever. If you consider how many running backs are in the top 100, there's many more I'll get to. But Trent Richardson was number 5. He obviously dominated senior year, All-American. He won the Heisman. He's done everything, pretty much from high school. And even his rookie year was pretty good. And then what happened to Trent? A lot of things happen. I see those. So what was kind of, I guess, the deciding factor of him just being out of the NFL?
Oh, is this the Bill or?
To you.
Richardson is an interesting case of, one, as a metrics guy, he wasn't exactly a generational talent. He was a very good talent in terms of where he landed in the spectrum of guys. Like, he landed with guys in the, like, Rashard Mendenhall, Rudy Johnson kind of area of players, not necessarily the next Adrian Peterson and stuff like that. His testing was also a little weird because when he went through testing, he didn't do any of the agility drills at all. And I've talked to a couple people that have some connections to the league, and they don't even have his agility testing numbers. So, yeah, it's a little and not to say I really want to know what those are, but it would be really interesting to see what those numbers kind of are, which might kind of shed a little bit more light to certain things with him. But he's a guy that, in terms of what he was able to – he's so weird because I remember about a couple months ago, and Matt Waldman, of course, Ryan Riddle, they did a little film session kind of thing about Trent Richardson, and they kept going through everything. Like, they went back to his Alabama tapes, like he was against Florida, and like, wow, look at this. Wow, that's a great play. That's a great play. And they went to the some plays with him on the Browns, and they went to this and that, and they go, wow, he's a phenomenal player. But this is where metrics and everything kind of helps out, because if you're watching the tape and you're like, wow, he's a great player, and yet when you look at the stat line, and I know everybody goes, oh, you're a box score fan, but I'm just being serious here. you look at Trent Richardson's stat line, and it says 3.6 yards per carry, 3.9 yards per carry. Then what are you not seeing on the tape? Because if you're watching the tape and you're seeing this guy making these 10-yard, 12-yard plays on the field, what are you missing? And I think that that's one of the things with Trent Richardson that I know a lot of people talk about vision, which I do think there is some truth to that. Other people talk about the fact that he just wasn't as athletic in terms of agility testing because we don't know. Like, I don't know. Nobody knows. I can't. It's almost like trying to get Jerry Rice's 40-yard dash and his numbers. Like, people say that number, and I go, BS, because, like, that can't be it. Like, there has to be something to it. And with him, there's mysteries with him. Some people talk about character, of course, which I don't like to do character because what are you basing it on? Because if you're going to say character, it has to be repeatable. Like, it has to be something where you can look at Trent Richardson case and go, the next time it comes around, these are the certain things we need to be looking for so that we can catch this type of behavior or type of character pattern, whatever you want to call it, with him, character profile. And nobody has a real straight answer to what his character issues are 100%. I mean, most of you talk to, he's pretty hardworking and everything else like that. So I think with Trent Richardson, it's just a case of, one, he wasn't exactly a slam dunk elite prospect. I mean, based as a metrics guy, he would have graded out as sort of a first rounder to second rounder guy, or early second rounder guy. And two, there's some stuff with his athletic testing that's a little off, where there's questions there that just aren't. I can't answer those questions. And three, I just think that there's something in the tape that people. It's a real answer it's an answer that needs to be done, to basically get the bottom of this, because if you watch the tape and you go, wow, this guy is elite, like, look at him breaking all these tackles, look at him doing this, look at that, look at that run, wow, that's a great run, and yet the stat line says 3.6 yards per carry, you're missing something. And I was really disappointed, I hate to say, with the Matt Wall and Ryan Riddle thing, because they kind of talked it up, well, obviously his character stuff. And I was like, no, you need to answer that question. Why is he only getting 3.6 yards per carry? If you're watching the tape and it says he's this beast of a running back that's getting these big yard runs, then that shouldn't be 3.6 yards per carry. It shouldn't be 3.9 yards per carry. So you're seeing something. You're not seeing something. There's something there that you're just not analyzing and really getting a hold of to answer that question. So that's all I can really say. There's questions about Trent Richardson that I think haven't been answered yet. I wish somebody would help me out with this answer more than just other sort of things. But bottom line is he didn't work out, and that just is what it is at this point with him. So he just ended up being one of the bigger busts at running back, especially because he went in the top 5.
Yeah, he definitely for the NFL draft. I mean, for us, I guess high school football, he lived up to past expectations. We were not a lot of guys didn't, or he was nominated twice, I believe. He was All-American. But yeah, college from the NFL, not so much, not so great college. Sheldon Richardson is right behind him, who was also doing really big things with the Jets. He was actually the number 1 rated player, Tom Hunter, that year. He's number 6 on here. Russell Shepard was an athlete, mainly quarterback though. I know ESPN had him at number 2 quarterback in the country behind Matt Barkley. I really just never believed he was a quarterback. I was like, there's no way. He was just too skinny to me to play quarterback. I mean, it's kind of like Brandon Harris, but without the arm strength. Was a really good runner. Could play both sides of the ball really well, and he's still doing that right now. So he's had a pretty average, I guess, all right career. Didn't get used too much this year. Wish they used him more, but they didn't. Vaughn Canara comes in after him, number 8. Jelani Jenkins is number 9, and Vontae Burfict is number 10. Bill, I'm gonna let you take this one. I saw this guy play in high school because he's from Corona, which is 15 minutes up the road from me. So I got a chance to see him play Norco and Mater Dei that year. I mean, Boston Versa is a perfect example of you don't know what you have until your senior year. This guy was the 59th best player in the state of California. And then he became a top 10 player by the end of the year because he just dominated. That game versus Norco I'm talking about, he had 24 tackles and 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles. He sacked Matt Barkley 3 times when he went up against a pretty good left tackle. I think he's at San Jose State right now. I can't by heart, but Walter Burke was a man, and he's still a really good player, Pro Bowl, caliber guy. People miss on him in the draft, so he was so low. Obviously, all the stuff and
that was character stuff. Yeah, that was. He said he said and did some stuff that didn't help him.
He did, but now he's had an up and down roller coaster career from high school to NFL. What do you think of him right now? And can he, stay perennial top linebacker, or do you even think he's a top linebacker at this point?
He's a very good linebacker. He can be abused in coverage. That's the one thing I would say. It was true in college, and it's even more true in the NFL. And you don't want him running with Darren Sproles. I mean, you don't want any linebacker running Darren Sproles, but I mean, he's terrific. He's good at blitzing. He times blitzes well, and he finishes well. Like he has a good sense of, how to. He's a bigger linebacker, but he knows how to quote unquote get skinny when he is shooting a gap, either on the run, in executing his run responsibilities, or like I said, as a blitzer. Much better going forward than going backwards. Like I said, I mean, he can buzz the flats or do the usual hook, curl, zone drops, that kind of thing. But he's not terrific in man coverage. Like I said, he's not Luke Kuechly. He's not Thomas Davis. He's not that kind of linebacker. He's an old school interior linebacker. He's like almost like a baby LeVon Kirkland in that. He's almost like having an extra down lineman in terms of how he plays the run. He can set the edge. He could, he's one of those, with stacking and shedding being a dying art, he is one of those guys, like James Harris and a few others who can actually just collapse. He could slam into a puller, collide into a puller, and send him into the running back and, bust up a play that way. I mean, he's powerful. He's explosive. He's just not super agile. And, he doesn't have great long speed. He's got everything else you want. And he's in the right system. He's on the right team. Clearly they know how to deal with. I mean, people always talk about this, about what kind of locker room you have to have. And people don't always think about the Bengals having the world's greatest locker room. But Ray Maluga is another kid who, as you and I both know, he's not a bad kid, but he's got some personality quirk.
Yeah. He's got a little bit of a temper. He's a hothead.
Yeah.
Except Keith Rivers, out of those UFC linebackers they had, Cushing, Maluga, all those guys, man. Even really good. I'm sure he was backup, but he was a fan favorite. They're all hothead, but not Keith Rivers. But yeah, it's got some, I think Boston is a really good player, man. He's solid. He's a really solid player. I mean, he's not amazing. He's pretty great, though, from time to time. Like you said, he does struggle with coverage, but other than that, he's really good. And I like the old school linebackers. Number 11 is Drake Kirkpatrick. His teammate, actually, Drake Kirkpatrick. 12 is Mateo, another pretty good linebacker. Different type of linebacker, but I guess he's old school, too. Number 13 is this guy was a linebacker. He is now, too. But he moved around a lot in high school. Another Raider for you, Jim, Ray Armstrong, out of Seminole County, Florida. He was an interesting guy. He was a number one athlete. Alex Okafor out of Texas, was 15. Jacoby McDaniel, I told you about that. He was 15. Dawson Moss, totally whiffed on that guy, man. He looked so good on that defensive end and tight end. Jansen Jackson was 17. Garrett Gilbert was number 18. He definitely
wait, hold on. Did you say Andrew Jackson, the big linebacker? Andrew Jackson with the Western Kentucky?
Jansen Jackson from Tennessee.
Oh, Jansen Jackson. I was so sorry. Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't think that kid was okay. Yeah. I remember that.
No.
I remember
You probably
what became of him?
Jansen Jackson, gosh, man, he missed it, man. He was kind of similar in a way to me as Lucas Perifori. He had good skills, but he had so much off the field stuff at the wrong time that he would have been maybe a 6th or 7th round pick, but he just, he failed the drug test. I think he was late.
I mean, he was when Urban. He was there when Urban was like, yeah.
Yeah, it was rough. But, yeah, I mean, and then, like I said, Garrett Gilbert didn't work out for other reasons. It wasn't off-the-field stuff. It was just, I don't know, really. When I talked to Garrett, he just says, man, the game just was too fast at times. He just said it was too fast. So I guess that's what it was. That and just, all the bouncing around and stuff like that, which is cool. Patrick Hall, I forgot about Patrick. He was really good, actually. So, he was one of the best athletes in the country that year. St. Bonnie's has bust, man. A lot of these guys from St. Bonnie's have worked. They have a lot of guys get there. They're not anything special. Craig Lawson comes in at 20. Andre Dubois, Florida. Christine Michael, Texas A&M. Who's still, he's bouncing around now at this point, but he is still a really good linebacker. Or excuse me, running back. He did play linebacker too, though. But Gary Brown, Florida, Darius Winston, Chris Davenport, William Campbell. I mean, there's a lot of guys. You got Brady Smith, Greg Reed, Mason Walters.
Greg
Reed. The next guy, yeah, man, Greg Reed, the little Dawson kid. I remember that. Been a while.
Nickel corner type. Yeah.
Yeah, Florida State. Yeah, he was there. I want to talk about this guy. I'll let you get this one too, Bill. I'll let you go back to back. Because I know you know a lot about him. T.J. McDonald. Tim. His father, Tevin. T.J., what do you think about his career? I feel like he didn't live up to the hype at USC. He was a great leader and everything, and done everything right for the team. Stayed all 4 years. But I feel like he didn't live up to it almost. The hype was really big. In the NFL, he's also, he's pretty good, but do you think he could ever be a Pro Bowl caliber safety?
I think he's going to be a good safety for, a nice little lengthy career. He's a leggy. People always talk about this. I mean, height, he's like 6'1.5" or something. Height's a funny thing. You can look at two guys who are exactly the same height, but the way they're put together means that one of them is effectively taller than the other. He's split eye, if the old thing goes. Short torso, long legs. So higher center of gravity. He struggled with breaking down a little bit. He struggles a little bit with turning and burning, as they say, getting himself in and out of breaks and that kind of thing. So he's not great in man coverage, but he's super smart. He can make all the calls. He's a hitter, much like his dad. He can function in that Deion Buchanan role when you ask him to come down and be that extra linebacker, that nickel linebacker, whatever. He can do that kind of stuff. But he's not Earl Thomas. I mean, he's not he's a little better. He's more than just a box safety, though. I've been defending him against that charge since he was a junior in college. He's more than just a box guy. He can do other stuff. He can do deep middle. He can do, deep half. But he's not great in man coverage. He's not a guy, once again, that you would want ever having to be matched up on a good slot receiver or some of the more athletic tight ends even. I mean, you don't like him covering Jordan Reed exactly. But he's a tough guy, a smart guy, and like I say, he's going to hang around the league for, probably around 10 years. Before it's all said and done. Like I said, much like his father, he's going to have a nice, long, solid career. He's just not super quick. I'm not Jim. I don't have his agility numbers in front of me and that kind of stuff, but I'm guessing they were average-ish just based on the way he plays.
Yeah, I agree with you on that aspect of it. I think he'll be a solid safety. He's probably going to bounce around. He's going to be in the NFL for a really long time, though, just because of his IQ. And we know his safety position is lacking some of that sometimes, so I think that'll get him that long. Plus, he works hard. He's not really injured too much. So that helped him out. Corey Brown came in after him. Nico Johnson, Dorian Bell, Willie Downs. Man, Florida State had some duds. And then on this list, Justin Turner, Jamarcus McFarland. Whoa, going back there.
Wow.
The big man. The really big man.
What happened to him?
It just didn't work out at Oklahoma, you know. Some of those Oklahoma guys, they always have that one guy. They recruit some big boys at Oklahoma. They have that one guy that doesn't really work out too well. I guess that he was the guy of the year. Good nose tackle in high school, though. David Mixon, the tackle in Florida. Malachi Goodman, Randall Carroll from L.A. Cathedral High School. David Wilson, Virginia Tech kid. Cliff Harris. He was one of my favorite players. I must say, Cliff Harris and C.J. McDonald were on the same team in high school, so it was really a secondary. But Cliff Harris is a little guy. He's one of my favorite guys ever. Nick Hossa, Gabe Lynn, Ronald Lewis, Shane Stove. I'll stop at Shane Stove, actually. No, not Shane Stove. Excuse me. Aaron Murray came after that. I'll stop at Aaron Murray. Shane Stove was great too, but you know, a lot of head injuries, and a lot of injuries in general. But Aaron Murray, I'm gonna let Jim take this one. Do you think Aaron Murray will get a shot? It's kind of like with Matt Barkley. He hasn't really had a shot at all. Matt not played the greatest when he had that chance. But do you think Aaron Murray will get a shot to be a pretty solid starter in the NFL?
He should get a start. He's friends with Travis Kelce. Maybe Travis Kelce owners would be more happy if it was Aaron Murray. But Aaron Murray is he's a very interesting guy. Had tons of success at Georgia, as we all know. Can make all the throws, can do everything you want. Stigmas against him, obviously, he was like, he's not the biggest, he's not the most athletic, he's not the, you know, he's like, he's not this, he's not that. Like, you nitpick him to death in many different ways. I think he should get a shot. I don't know if he will get a shot. It's a weird situation happening in Kansas City, obviously, and I can't read Andy Reid. So I'm not in Andy Reid's mind. He might be one of those, he might do what he was doing where he was kind of having guys have really good preseason games, you know, or something like that, and then trade them for second-round picks maybe. That might be Aaron Murray maybe, but you know, you never know. I mean, he did it twice, so why can't he do it again? So, but I think Aaron Murray definitely deserves a shot. Like I said, he's really tight with Travis Kelce, which is making me frustrated because I'm like, just start Aaron Murray already, so at least he could throw it to Kelce every play. But yeah, I just think that he's a guy that was underrated during the process. He went to he went to the perfect system in terms of Andy Reid's scheme. I mean, it's West Coast kind of scheme. He fits that scheme. Will he get a shot? I don't know. But I do think that he's the type of guy that I could see having a Matt Flynn, you know, Charlie Whitehurst, that type of career where he just sticks around a lot because coaches like him and he doesn't make mistakes and he's always prepared. So I think he could have that type of career. But I do hope he does get a shot. So he deserves one at least, to me.
Agreed. I agree with that. An interesting guy comes after him, Patrick Patterson. I don't know, maybe you guys remember him, probably not. He was the big-time recruit. He never really got a chance to play at Ole Miss because he got kicked out. He violated team rules a couple times, and he got kicked out for a marijuana charge, using that. It was debatable. He didn't get arrested or anything, but it was a possession. Kind of slapped on the wrist thing, and he went to junior college and didn't cut it there with Graves. He was kind of what could have been. He was 6'3", 215, 4'5" guy, big time vertical. Just never really got a chance to play. He was a really good corner too, and safety. He played pretty much everywhere. But he comes in after that. Chris Falk comes to LSU. Johnny Boyd, Morgan Moses made himself a pretty nice career in the NFL. I gotta let Bill talk about this one because it's a Virginia guy, that came in. Another quarterback, played at Clemson, Tosh Boyd. Will we ever see Tosh Boyd throw a pass at the next level? I know he's had his struggles. He's a guy I love in high school and in college. And, senior wasn't the greatest and kind of undersized and everything like that. But do you think we'll see him get a chance to play again?
If the world were just place, the answer would be yes. I've watched Taj and EJ since they were high school kids, and Taj is, to me, every bit the quarterback that EJ is, just shorter. I guess he doesn't have quite the same look because he's not as tall and he's a little thick, stubby or whatever looking. 6 feet and change and 223 pounds or whatever. So he doesn't have the same sort of regal, classic quarterback stature. But, if you look at around the league, especially with, some of the guys that people are throwing out there, second and third stringers to, is he as good as Austin Davis? I would say yes. Austin Davis is a guy that's going to start some games in his career. I don't think Taj will ever be a full-time starter in the NFL. And I don't think EJ might, not so much because he's better, but because for whatever reason coaches believe in him more and front office people believe in him more. I'm not exactly sure why, quite frankly. I don't know if it's right. I guess that's what it is. Taller.
Taj Boyd. Just to tell you this, the most striking moment I noticed when I was at the Senior Bowl last time I went there back, was Logan's helmet and Taj Boyd standing next to each other, and I'm like, wow, that's a difference.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. It's interesting that he's not on a roster right now, but his backup, Cole Stout, is on a practice squad. He's not on the roster either, I guess.
Which is BS.
He's actually,
utter BS.
Well, yeah. Cole Stout's dad was Minnesota for a while. He's taller, obviously, the college boy too. So, I think that helps. But things turn out fun sometimes, and that's one because Cole really, he only had a few starts. He only had 5 starts. His whole career, Taj had a lot. He's the winningest quarterback in history.
Yeah, like I said, it lets you know that people still have, despite the successes of Drew Brees and Russell Wilson, there's still the picture they have in their minds is a guy who's 6'4". I get that. And it's always going to be a struggle for guys like Taj.
6'4" white guy. Yep.
Yeah,
that's what they have in their mind.
Cole Stout was that. He actually was one of the only quarterbacks that was listed at 6'4", and he is taller than what he was. He was actually like 6'4.5", not 6, just 6'4". I just found that interesting because most quarterbacks are always short, 95% of the time, or at least maybe on par. But he's. I'm not saying he's doing any much better than Taj, but he's still like which is weird. Like I said, but height has a lot to do with it. Marcus Hall comes in after that. Marlon Brown from Georgia. Zeke Motta, who, man, that guy has so many tackles. He's top 5 in the state of Florida history, which is saying a lot with the tackles. Never had under 100 tackles in Vero Beach, Florida, and Notre Dame is safety / linebacker type of guy in the box. He boxed too, right? Bill, you was a boxer? No, that was Zivakowski.
I think so. I remember sort of hearing you for some reason, but I think if I heard you correctly.
I think it was Zivakowski that was a boxer. Not bad. But Calvin Howell comes in after that, 55. Jamal Berry, Edwin Baker, Terry Hawthorne, Michael Ford, Tyreek Rose. Man, that guy never even played at Auburn. He's one of the top players. Ryan Giddens, Orson Charles, Xavier Philo, John Bostic, Tanner Patrick, Michael Phillips, Rodney Smith, Keith Richardson. Which is, he was one of the fastest receivers I've seen. He just didn't work out. He was a little too small. More like a just kick returner type of guy. And there's only so many of those. DeMonte McAllister, Garrett Porter, Logan Thomas is actually on this as well. Jarvis Jones, too. bunch of guys, man. There's more guys I can't name off to everybody. But I do want to stop on one guy that, I think he's one of the better DBs in the AFC East and possibly in the league. He went to Rock Hill in South Carolina, and Stephon Gilmore from Buffalo Bills. Jim, what do you think about Stephon Gilmore? You have him as a top 10 quarterback in the league.
Stephon Gilmore? I kind of like his running back a little bit better, in terms of Florida State. Ronald Darby. Been doing a lot more stuff. I mean, Gilmore is he's solid overall. I always kind of felt like he was helped out a lot by having a really good front seven, which is kind of how that defense works. And if they just had better quarterbacks to make plays on the ball, they would do better, which Darby's been able to do that. But, I mean, Gilmore is a solid corner. He's probably a little overrated. I mean, when you say top 10 corner, I'm like, top 20? Yeah, maybe.
My buddy that put out a list, Luis Trio, I think he had him as the 10th best corner. And kind of compare it to, he didn't compare it to Del Reeves per se. He just said that he's kind of Del Reeves light, I guess you could say, diet Del Reeves. I know you're comparing to him coming out, and he's playing for the same head coach that he plays for. So, but that's, I think he's a top 15 corner, maybe not top 10.
Right, and that's kind of where I have him at. I mean, he's been a solid player. Hasn't been the best in terms of he can't be beat. He can go up against certain guys that he just can't deal with. But it doesn't mean he's a bad corner. It just means that, hey, when he's going up against this guy, it's just not going to be his day. It's not going to be successful. But he is somebody who has the prerequisites of an NFL cornerback. I just wouldn't necessarily say that there's anything that's particularly special about him, except for just his ability to kind of change directions and kind of lateral movement and stuff like that is a little bit better than a few other guys I've seen. But I don't know, he's just not very explosive, I guess, is really all it is. I mean, he's fast and he's also dynamic, but he's not exactly very explosive as a player from what I've seen. But that's just me.
And my main issue is that he's still not fantastic in terms of things like route recognition, and he definitely can be had by anybody who can sell a double move well. He's really good at tracking the ball. He's a good ball tracker. He's got good hands. And as noted earlier by Jim, he's got good hips and feet. He can really, turn, and that's where he's really good. But he's not always consistent in technique, particularly in terms of there's certain landmarks you have in the defense that they play, and you're supposed to be at different relationships to the ball and the man, but he's not always in the proper relationship, or if it's the term we use in the business, he's not always in phase. And he's a good enough athlete that, except for some very special guys, he should be able to stay in phase with all but, 2 or 3 or 4, a very small handful of guys who can just flat out whip him athletically. And he's not always there.
Right. Definitely. I agree with that. What's your top? It was a pretty big name with future at the bottom of the top 100. And Alshon Jeffrey, who is he was one of the best receivers in the NFL right now. He was really good to watch at South Carolina. Some people say they don't go to certain games, but I mean, I know down under All-American practices, games, and the camps. His junior and senior camps, he moved up because of just his hands and his ball skills in the red zone. Bill, I'll let you get this one. You're in Chicago, so what do you think about Alshon Jeffrey? Top 10 receiver?
Is who a top 10 receiver?
Alshon Jeffrey.
No. He's a really good number 2. And they don't really have a number 1 right now, which is one of the reasons that they've struggled at times on offense. Kevin White is hurt, who they'd hoped would sort of step in and help. Alshon is the big-bodied Z. I mean, that's really what he is. He's that big-bodied Z. He's a better version of Malcolm Floyd. He's, whoever you want to say. He's their Alvin Harper. You go down the list of all the sort of better, the good big-bodied Zs that you can think of. And when he had Brandon Marshall at the X on the other side, they were wreaking havoc. And then you had, Martellus Bennett running up the seam at midline Y. It was awesome. That's why Josh McCown looks so good. These 3 big mobile targets. Alshon just doesn't have enough, once again, juice, whatever term we want to use, to be a true top 10 receiver. He's not going to be Dez. He's not going to be Brandon Marshall even. He's a notch below that guy. He's closer to being Eric Decker than he is to being Brandon Marshall. So, no, I can't put him in the top 10.
I always thought he was closer to being Marshall than maybe Decker. I thought he could get more banged up a little bit. I know stat watching is just not good because he also benefits from Marshall on that side. But I don't know if he's going to be a top 10 ever, but I thought he picked up a couple times. Maybe.
Well, first of all, let's just make it clear that Eric Decker's a beast. I mean, we're not talking about trash. Eric Decker's a really good wide receiver.
Eric Decker is a good wide receiver.
Eric Decker's good. It's just some people, Denver fans in particular, have compared him to, we'll name a white wide receiver. He doesn't get the credit that you would normally, like if Eric Decker was possibly a different color, he might be more
respected. Yeah.
No, he's definitely a good receiver. No knock on him. I think it's just more goes to.
No, Jeffrey's good, but
what else think about Jeffrey? He's injured.
I mean, Jeffrey. He's injured, yes, but that's been his come on, dude. Since South Carolina, that's been kind of his thing. It's wow and overweight and injured, and so far that's the issue with Jeffrey is he's just not been able to consistently stay healthy. When he is healthy, does he have the athleticism chop to say a Braylon Edwards? Yeah, I mean, he kind of tested exactly like Braylon Edwards in terms of every sort of thing he could do. Obviously, was also pretty productive at South Carolina, but his injuries affect the way he plays, and that's kind of what it comes down to. Some guys can play through injuries and play well, other guys can't, and that's been his big issue. He's not been able to really play exceptionally well with injury, while other guys like Brandon Marshall, at times, he's been able to play through injuries, but Jeffrey, for a reason, just hasn't 100%, and it is what it is. I think he definitely is a guy that could end up becoming a top 12 or higher wide receiver, but right now it doesn't look that way. He just, in terms of his ability to play through injury and stay healthy.
Yep.
Yeah,
top 20 definitely. Top 20 definitely. Top 15 maybe, but top 10 I guess can't go there. Just thinking off the top of my head, I've got Larry Fitzgerald ahead of him, even at his advanced age. Obviously, I still have Brandon Marshall ahead of him. Obviously, I'm going to have the top guys, the Dez's ahead of him. He's going to be behind guys like Bebe Thomas in my mind.
Odell, Mike Evans,
right,
Larry Fitzgerald, Julio Jones,
Calvin Emmanuel Senior.
Des Bryant. Yeah,
there's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys. It was more, I guess, people's projection of him more so than right now. But, yeah, he is injury prone, which is something I hate. You just can't have it.
Guys like A.J. Green, are clearly going to have to be ahead of him. So, no, he can't be top 10.
Agreed. That's, pretty much the top of the – well, it's funny, Landry Jones Player 101 that year. He, you know, is a backup quarterback. He's got a couple starts, more starts than some guys on this list that we named off. You know, he was pretty good. He didn't live up to the height as far as not his numbers really, just winning, kind of fading, of course, things like that. At Oklahoma, and right now he's just, you know, pretty much going to be a backup for this career. They had pretty good first game, but then, you know, they saw tape. So he wasn't as good the next few games. Then he got hurt as well, along with Big Ben. Excuse me, Michael Vick. So, yeah, I think you guys are coming on the show tonight. I'm pretty much wrapped it up. We had Joey Helmer on for 2% before on TV radio. Did a really good job talking about Baker Mayfield's injury. Talked a little bit about Tapper, how he's been playing well the past couple of weeks. Zach Sanchez possibly staying, sticking around, and you know, like I said, Baker Mayfield's concussion, head injury, and his Heisman chances, recruiting classes, everything. You know, follow his guys or read his work at the OU Insider. Does a really good job there. Thank you guys for coming on. We talked about Iowa State's head coaching job. I think Jim had Ken Malotololo of Navy as his pick. Mine was much bigger. Yeah, it was a good pick by Jimmy. Like I said, he didn't get beat up by Twitter. Not last week, really, for the past few weeks for some picks. But he picks good guys.
I mean, here's the good news. He's used to national recruiting, which you're going to have to do at Iowa State. You're not going to win even the battle for the state of Iowa, you know, and you can't run a program just on Iowa kids anyway. So you've got to be a national recruiter. He's clearly used to that because you know, the Naval Academy is all on national recruitment. You're not like you're winning the battle for the state of Maryland. So you're recruiting literally from sea to shining sea.
Well, that's why I think Butch Davis is my guy because recruiting.
Well, I mean, it's the biggest. He'll be the most high-profile coach they've had since Johnny Majors was there in the early 1970s. So yes, I mean, it's the biggest name they've had in 45 years probably. So yeah, there's that. Would he take the job? I mean, I know Butch wants to come back, but
I think he would take the job. I think he's going to aim. I don't think he might. You know, he's the older guy now. You know, they'll pay him pretty well. I think. You know, I mean, they're not going to kill it in the wall for him, but I think they'll pay him pretty well. I think he can go to aim. It's a place where he can not really under any pressure. You know, he can start off slow and build it up and build it. I think he could. I think Butch Davis has to get the right staff. That's all he has to do. He has to get the right staff. He has to manage the games when it's crunch time and recruit and be CEO type of coach more than actually.
Well, you know, there's lots of guys on draft Twitter you could hire, so you know.
Possibly. I trust Butch. We'll see who wins the Twitter battle. I know Brock Spack is pretty lead candidate in real life, not the Don James Sports High School sports life. But Davis is too, actually, and then Jeff Brom is kind of a lead candidate.
That would be a good hire.
Yeah.
Jeff Brom would be a good hire.
It would be a good hire. I agree with that. I could have went there. It would have been safe, which I've been doing. I've been even better at that. But I'm going to go ball and go for Davis. So we'll see with that. But yeah, we talked about that. You know, before you guys get out of here, you know, I do got to ask you, you know, every game of the week, man, OU plays the Pokes, Oklahoma State. There's so many games of the week, but that's the one. That's the number one game. So what do you guys have in that one? I'll start with you, Bill Carroll.
Partially because I'm a fan of chaos, and partially because I think Oklahoma State matches up pretty well with Oklahoma. They don't match up terribly well with Baylor. Here's the thing about playing and beating Oklahoma. They're fairly well balanced. They have Mixon, who's their, you know, their Kenyon Drake kind of back, and then of course they have the guy that I wish they would pound more is Samaje Perine. You know, if they gave him 24 touches, I think they'd win this game, but they seem resistant to the idea. So that means shootout. That means throwing the ball a lot. And I think Now, obviously, the secondary of Oklahoma State can be had, as we just saw. But I truly believe that Baker Mayfield is one of those guys that plays, guts football, basically. I mean, say what you want about him. He's fearless. Like, he's NASCAR driver, stunt double, fearless. His heart doesn't pump Kool-Aid. But I think he'll take some chances that'll get him in some trouble against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma's a pretty balanced team, pretty decent defense. People talk about their defense as if it's better than it is. It's good. It's not amazing. And I think Rudolph, the guy that the quarterback people will be talking about at the end of that game last week, Mason Rudolph, for some reason people don't talk about. Mason Rudolph's putting up stupid numbers this year, people, and no one seems to notice. So
I noticed him. He's been playing better, man. He's finally living up to the hype out of Rock Hill from South Carolina. He was a pretty big recruit. 6'4", 217, possibly the strongest one in the conference as far as throwing the deep ball. His blitz percentage is really high. Second in the conference to Baker Mayfield. So, yeah, I mean, he hasn't thrown that many touchdowns, but he hasn't thrown too many picks either. If you actually watch Oklahoma State, you'll know why, because they use J.W. Walsh a lot, Wildcat, and he runs for a lot of touchdowns. He opens it up. He's kind of the Tebow or, just the secondary kind of Wildcat quarterback. I like him. He's pretty good. I mean, he was not that bad of a quarterback. He got benched for West Line and then Mason Rudolph. They've had a lot of good quarterbacks there out of high school, and he kind of lost in the sauce, but he's still really good. He stuck it out. He could have easily transferred, but I got Oklahoma. Bill, they've been running the ball lately, man. I mean, they're fifth in the country, the past 3 weeks. The 6 weeks, actually. And then Ryan has had 25 carries the past 3 weeks. I think Lincoln Riley's finally getting – I hope he doesn't revert back to throwing the ball too much and let P. Ryan get his carries early on. That's the best thing that he's been doing. Let him get – I think he's averaged 8 carries in the first 20 minutes, something like that, first quarter. That's really good, 8 carries in the first quarter to start off the game. And then it opens for Baker, and it opens for Mixon to speed that. I think they'll win 41-30. Just don't think that, Oklahoma State, I think they can keep up. They don't run the ball that well. They haven't been the past 2 weeks, in my opinion. So I think I'm going to go with Oklahoma to close this thing out. Jim, what do you see in that game?
I see Oklahoma. I think the term that Bill's looking for is Baker Mayfield is the Tom Cruise of college football. So he's fearless. He does his own stunts, charismatic. And I don't know. I mean, I've rooted against Oklahoma this whole year, but I just have to say that defense is legit. It's always been legit. The offense seems to be working. P. Ryan obviously is doing his thing, so I just have to go Oklahoma. But I would love to see Oklahoma State, shock the world and do something crazy, but I just don't see it.
Chaos. It can happen. This is a big week. It's rivalry week. It's the last week for conference championship season. There's so many games, and your name Stanford's going to be big. Florida State. Recruit. This is recruiting week for us. This is where everybody is pretty much – a lot of people are in the state playoffs, but some people are done with the state. A lot of kids are done. There's not a lot of teams left in the state playoffs. So people are going their official visits, in-state battles, Battle Auburn, UCLA, USC, everything. Baylor, PCC, even Iowa, Nebraska for the Midwest. All these big battles going on. It's going to be – I hope you guys are off and just, chilling and watching football from sunrise to nighttime. It's going to be fun. It's going to be really fun. And high school football, like I said earlier, the show's going to be really fun too. Last thing before we get out of here, we always have fan mail. I'm just going to start saving this for last. Our show starts off with a bang always, after late. I guess I'm going to let Bill grab this one first. It's about LSU, of course. It's about Les Miles. Fan asked here on Twitter, what team would LSU or LS Miles consider? Where would he go if he was fired, basically at LSU? Would he go to USC, South Carolina, or maybe take a year off, UTB or something like that?
But he may well take a year off. I think the place that would be the most attractive to him would be South Carolina, and then probably not far behind that might be USC. I mean, USC is an attractive job, but people always question the cultural fit. I mean, he's a guy that came from the Midwest, played for Schembechler, right, at Michigan. Michigan fans still, until recently, of course they got Harbaugh, but used to hold kind of a place in their hearts for him, kind of hoping against hope one day they'd land him. But like I said, I think USC would be on his radar. I can't imagine it wouldn't. Syracuse has been mentioned. I think that's a little, say beneath him, but there's a lot of work to be, a lot of work. People talk about South Carolina being a lot of work, but there's more of a foundation built there than at Syracuse, which is, quote-unquote, a basketball school. You play in a kind of a weird environment. I mean, it is at least on campus. And at one point, they had a lot of student support. If you went to go see games there in the 80s and 90s, when Dick McPherson was up there, they did a great job of getting the students excited, and the place was rocking. All the juices in the house, oh my God, so they brought over from the basketball team and all that. But it's a very different environment up there now. They don't pack it out like they used to. The fans aren't into it like they used to be. And it's a tough place to recruit. Syracuse is not exactly a garden spot in terms of, Syracuse itself. And northern New York is not the most talent-rich environment. You don't have a lot of competition in terms of, to recruit against, but you don't need it. I mean, there's not a huge amount of talent. You got to recruit Pennsylvania. There you have a lot of, competition. You got to recruit Ohio, and then, Florida, because everybody recruits Florida. So you've got to do well in those areas. And I think Les would be more comfortable and confident if he could stay in the SEC, though I think if he goes to USC, he'd have to quickly get sort of ramped up on the West Coast recruiting, scene. But he's a really personable guy, and I think they'd fall in love with him. If he ever got into the room with the USC people, I think they'd soon, like I said, they'd have another place, they'd fall in love with him. But I think South Carolina is the place where he would be most likely to land if he doesn't just decide to, sit on a pile of cash for a year.
Agreed. And I think speaking for SC, he would be a good fit. I think he would fit in there. They would like him because they want to be. We wish we could be LSU right now. Their deal is their deal, but we want some of that winning national championship 64 players drafted, whatever it is to be. We don't have a problem doing that necessarily, but just the top tier talent, making sure we develop that talent, because there's been a lot of top talent there. Sometimes not developed all the way, or any team really for that matter that's out there without a head coach, not just SC, but South Carolina, whatever, Syracuse, like you mentioned. So we're gonna close the show. Thank you guys for coming on. By the way, prayers for Stephen Bailey. I mean, I'm sure you guys heard what happened. It's non-life-threatening, so that's great. But still pretty crazy. They got shot in the head. I don't know when that happened. I don't know if I'm late on it or not, but either way, prayers to him and the Rams family and his family and everything. Bill Carroll, tell us who they can find and follow your work. What you've been up to.
Sure. You can find me at either one of my Twitter feeds, either the @11Bravo, ELEVESBRAVO 138, or B Carroll, capital B, capital C, ARROLL 138. And I have 3 things I'm currently working on. I am reworking and tweaking. So Pete Smith and I are now going to be the partners, the opposing counsels in the Hall of Fame, with the Hall of Fame semifinalist list dropping. I'm going to based on the fact that some of the guys that I'd written about previously are likely to be inducted, I'll move them out and drop in some of the guys that used to be on sort of my honorable mention list or whatever for people that I think should be in the Hall of Fame who aren't likely to get in. And then I'm getting ready to, in about a week or so, I'll start dropping my all underappreciated and all emerging. And then I am probably going to, at some point, lean on the metrical expertise of Jim Cobern, but I'm trying to write a piece about the big back, the changing of the mindset in the NFL about big back. And when I mean big, I mean really big. Some people refer to a 220-pounder as a big back. I mean like bigger, 240, so the Derrick Henry size guys who are very, very rare. And why that is, why you don't see too many really big backs. You don't see too many Cookie Gilchrist, Pete Johnson, James Hadnot. You don't see too many of the huge backs anymore, and why that is. So that should be appearing in Nuts and Bolts Sports in probably about a week and a half. Well, and the other stuff is on Fan Speak.
Okay, look out for that. We'll call this. I'll look out for that. Jim, same thing, man. Tell them what you've been up to lately.
I've just been watching tape and going through various projects. I've talked about many of them on the show before, but I'm still doing the IR, working on a little bit on that, chipping away at that. The FCS season is going to end in a couple of weeks, obviously, and I'm going to be getting the legwork done on the entire FCS and Division III, Division II kind of area to see if there's any guys in there that kind of stick out that are going to be seniors this year, draft eligible type guys, and that's about it. I've been doing a ton of stuff, so I do so many things that it's just kind of crazy, but I try to find time to do everything. So, and also you can find my work at NFL Spin Zone or Fansided in terms of NFL kind of stuff, and you can also follow me on Twitter at capital J little N little C little B little E little R little N1. And all I can say is Les Miles would be kind of cool at South Carolina, but Tom Herman is apparently rumored to be possibly doing an interview at South Carolina, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah.
Thank you for coming on, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. And I did forget to mention that I believe Pat Forte had reported earlier that Justin Fuente is pretty close to being the Virginia Tech head coach, which actually came as a surprise. I thought Buzz also would get the job, but hey, Justin Fuente is a really good coach too. He's just a lot younger, Buzz been there for a while. I thought he's kind of the coach in waiting. That's what he said, but.
And he's a quarterback coach, and Bill knows this. Florida, in terms of quarterback coaching, how's that been for Virginia Tech over the last couple decades?
It's been a problem. They've had issues.
Scott Leffler was, I thought, the answer to that, but he didn't do, what he needed to do as far as, developing guys.
All right. So it makes a lot of sense, the hire makes a lot of sense. If they do hire, it makes a lot of sense that they're going to try to, because they've had all this talent that's been possibly wasted, Logan Thomas, Michael Vick, even to a certain extent in terms of his development as a quarterback that, there was stuff that was suspect there, but yeah.
Yeah, that's just some news that made the headline that I just caught late, so I won't mention that. Last thing is high school 2018 class. I know it's far away, but Ricky Slade is considered one of the best players. Not Ricky Slade. Josh Proctor. Josh Proctor is a safety / wide receiver out of Texas. He just committed to Texas. Young kid, only a sophomore. Obviously, the junior shoot, but they're doing a good job of recruiting. Charlie Strong is not winning games, but if you keep getting your recruits like this, he probably will too. So probably see where I can't wait to see where he goes in that program. They're probably not going to go, but hey, they still got a base of what they want to be. So their recruiting class is interesting to look out for. But guys, I've been working on some things too. I'm working on my top 100 for the 2016 class, this year's class for high school. Doing my top 25 every week and my top 4. players, new players to watch every week too on RSCN Report, .com. And I thank you guys for coming on. You can find my work, like I said, at RSCNReport.com. And if you want to, get on the Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, check me out on Rivals.com. And that's it. Yeah, my Twitter handle is James Cobern. And I hope you guys have a great night.
You too, sir.